Hitmen Ray and Ken are ordered to hide out in Bruges after a job gone wrong in London. Ken is beguiled, Ray hates it. But the city brings with it the duo's reckoning as they face up to their misgivings and their lunatic boss, Harry. In Bruges was the feature debut of celebrated playwright Martin McDonagh, who brought his inimitable dialogue and style to the big screen. He also brought together the acting talents of Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson for the first time. The movie-going world rejoiced and critics swooned at this immediate modern cult classic. My name is Luke, and the two manky hookers with me are Matt.
And so are my fucking kids. That's going overboard, mate.
And Westy.
What's a 50-year-old lollipop man doing knowing fucking karate? What is he, Chinese lollipop man?
We're on a train out to Bruges. It's in Belgium.
Do I have to?
Of course you don't fucking have to. Hello everyone, Merry Christmas and welcome to the final episode of 2023 from All the Right Movies.
Yes.
A fucking fairy tale of a podcast on classic and hit films.
It is.
We're ending the year in style with this show. Podcast first, Christmas later, it's in Bruges.
Nice. No dual carriageway though.
No, it wasn't there when I was there.
Yeah, would it spoil it, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Bowling alley, though.
Yeah. Medieval bowl.
Yeah. And a Pizza Hut.
And a Pizza Hut. It was all right. Yeah, you know, Pizza Hut.
Pizza Hut, same as in England.
That's globalisation, isn't
it? Okay. Before we start the sightseeing, it's time to take a look around the ATRM museum known as Patreon.
Yes, which is not a shithole.
It isn't a shithole.
At all.
Reserve judgment until you've seen the fucking thing, all right?
This is going to be a long, long afternoon.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard of us talking about Patreon before, so once more shouldn't be a problem. And if you're a new listener, you're in for a treat.
Absolutely.
Our biggest fans support us on Patreon, and as a reward for their efforts, they get access to our entire podcast archive. That's almost 70 episodes of our classic show, the one you're listening to now.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And almost 55 podcasts that we've recorded exclusively for our patrons, including our current double feature show.
Yep.
And you get a brand new one of those each month.
Yes.
Yes, you do.
Besides that, you also get to vote on the films that we talk about and ask us questions, which we'll answer live on the show.
Yep.
So if you're looking for any last-minute gift ideas for yourself or your loved ones, look no further. I know it might be a proposition, feel like you're in a dream, but you are awake. So get over to patreon.com/all the right movies to enjoy the sounds of all the right movies and make everyone's Christmas extra special.
Beautiful. The gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Please do. You don't have to, though. But you
Yeah,
should.
of course you don't have to.
You don't have to.
Actually, our classic podcast archive is also available on Apple Podcasts, so you can hit the subscribe button there and get access immediately, and you can buy them individually on our website as well. 3 attractive options. If you could help us out and support us, we would really appreciate it.
Yes,
Thank
we
you.
really
Yes, we
would, guys.
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
very much. Cheers.
Back to In Bruges then, chaps.
Yeah.
I was going to say I should front this up by apologising, but we've already sworn more than enough.
Yeah.
Over-
But
Yeah, over
apologies
4
in
years.
advance for any profanities,
Yeah.
of which there will be a lot.
There
I'm
will be a
certain.
lot.
Because of this
Any film
yes.
with a C-bomb in it will do it. Matt seems to take that as carte blanche.
Yeah,
Take it as a
absolutely.
challenge.
Yeah, talking without his usual silver-tongued grace. Just try not to say anything too loud or crass, Matt, okay?
No, I'll try.
So this was your choice. Why do you want to talk about In Bruges, Matt, apart from the obvious nepotism?
We'll get on to that. I'm honestly surprised it's taken us this long to get around to it. We always talk about it. We always quote it. We love McDonagh and everyone in this.
Yeah.
But genuinely, for me, when this came out of the cinema, I gave it the big swerve. And that
really?
was, entirely because of the poster. I think the poster is terrible for this.
right.
Yeah, I agree.
And it made it look like a bad Guy Ritchie knockoff. And I had to see where invest in that type of thing. So
Is that when Farrell's like holding the ice cream cone?
Holding the ice cream.
and it's, what's the tagline?
Shoot first, I see later.
Yeah, really naff.
Crap.
And I did see it because I think this must have been in like the dying days of when you could physically rent a film from a shop. I just thought, I've heard some good things, so I'll give it a go. And I got to the end, and I genuinely wanted to watch it again right from the beginning because it just went nowhere where I was expecting it. And I remember just sitting there going, I think that was brilliant, but I'm so surprised I can't quite get my head around
Yeah,
it.
you can't keep up with it the first time.
You can't.
No.
But ever since then, it's become a firm favourite. long-term listeners might remember a couple of years ago, we did an alternative ranking Christmas films list.
One, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Don't want to give it away if you haven't listened to it, but this one was featured quite highly by all of us. So I'm really looking forward to talking about it in depth. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how many times Luke's got to break out the bleep. Because, yes, it's going to be a sweary one.
Yeah. Wow. Sorry. Happy Christmas.
Merry fucking Christmas.
And we probably should explain for new listeners that nepotism comment. Colin Farrell's your brother or something, man?
Yeah, he's my brother. No, we are distant cousins, distantly related.
Well, I said it before, I'll say it again. Why isn't he here?
I keep on sending him the Christmas card. He keeps on ignoring me.
Have you got any contact with him at all? Just anything, Matt?
No, because the kind of contact we had was dependent on my uncle, but he died a couple of years ago.
Does he know who you are, Matt?
Well, of course he does. I mean, who doesn't?
Well, that's true, you know. No, but seriously, does he?
I wouldn't have
Does he
thought so.
fuck?
No, I absolutely wouldn't have thought so.
He just doesn't like you anymore.
He just doesn't like me anymore, that's it.
You like
He liked me yesterday.
Fantastic. And Westy, is In Bruges your thing?
It's definitely my thing. And I agree with Matt, but I also kind of love that poster because it makes a lot of people who won't understand this film spend money and go and see it.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
They'll go, I want to see that Guy Ritchie knockoff, and they'll be so disappointed. I fucking love that secretly because it isn't that at all.
No.
It's a very intelligent film, very theatrical film, very dialogue heavy, very good at addressing mental health without it getting too bleak or too sad or too dark. It's very accessible. It's very watchable. One of my very, very favourite films. And I remember this was the film that was saw before my first child was born. It was like the last film that I saw.
Right.
It's like,
quite momentous.
Yeah, right, here we'll go. Right, we're going to leave for the hospital. And In Bruges was on. And I was like, can I just finish this?
Classic Westy.
Classic Westy.
That is classic Westy.
My third viewing of that day as well. As like, I'll watch this again. and I just remember, I just have fond memories of it making us feel really safe and really comfortable and getting a lot of understanding from it. So it's one of them films that's always been there for me. I'll always introduce people to it. I'll always stand by it. And it has an incredible tone and an incredible comedy element to it. A great, great first double act from Gleeson and Farrell and an amazing turn from Fiennes. So yeah, I'm looking forward to diving into this one.
Yeah, very much. I think we're all the same. All of those things that you said, to be honest, fellas. You can get the comedy, tragedy, and great performances from the first watch of In Bruges, I think. But I think repeat viewings are essential to really get to the bottom of McDonagh's work here.
Yeah.
In a style that we've now become accustomed to, considering his filmography as well. It's a wonderful film. Obviously, you've got the swans and the bridges and that.
All the old buildings and that.
All the old buildings and that. But it's got really nuanced performances. Huge depth from Colin Farrell that we probably hadn't seen beforehand.
No.
And gut-busting humour. Probably one of the funniest films of the 21st century for me.
Oh, it's up there, definitely.
Easy.
It's so funny.
Yeah. In Bruges was written and directed by Martin McDonagh and produced by Graham Broadbent and Peter Chernin for Focus Features. Shot on location in Bruges and released on the 8th of February 2008. It stars Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson as mismatched hitmen Ray and Ken. Clemens Posey stars as Chloe, and Ray Fiennes as the deranged criminal kingpin, Harry Waters.
Yep.
We're delving deep into the alcoves of In Bruges, and we're starting with Ray and Ken arriving by train.
The beginning.
A moody opening to the film highlights Bruges' architecture, and Ray's voiceover half confirms the motivation for our two leads to be in this picturesque part of the world. Matt, is Bruges a shithole?
Depends if it's your kind of fucking thing or not, doesn't it? I love the opening though, because it's even better if you don't know where this film is going, because it's full of intrigue. You know, who has this guy killed? And why does it mean that he's been sent to Bruges, of all places? Why there? And the fact that Ray doesn't know where Bruges is tells you a lot about him straight away. But also, when he says that straight in with a great joke, it's in Belgium.
Yeah.
Just really funny.
Wonderful.
Really funny.
Deadpan.
In this opening, it has all this melancholic music. It has the carvings on the buildings. It has all the, the darkly lit alcoves. So it's all quite threatening. And then when you see Ray and Ken for the first time, it's handheld. It all feels and looks very bleak. And this was the first clue for me that, this isn't going to be what I thought it was. And Ray really surprises you in that opening sequence because he looks so sulky and he's extremely unimpressed that he has to share a room with Ken because it's Christmas, so it's fully booked. So
Yeah.
you think this guy is going to be a complete pain in the arse, just causing trouble and complaining, when he's going, for 2 weeks in fucking Bruges, room like this, with you? No way.
Yeah. With you?
So yeah, you think he's this guy, but then when Ken alludes to him, well, you're the reason why we're here, he's straight in that bathroom and you can see he practically starts sobbing right away.
Yeah.
So something has happened, something bad, something we're not privy to. It's just a really extremely intriguing opening, and it kind of wrong foots you right from the start.
I love Ken's little look towards Ray when they're on the way to the hotel. He's so happy with himself when he sees the canal, and he kind of nods and winks at Ray. Like, told you, it's fantastic, isn't it?
That, isn't it? Ray's like, no, shit. It's the first line of dialogue in this film. Like, when I killed him, I went to a Burger King and washed the remnants off my hands through the gun in the Thames. It's like, who did you kill? Where's this going? And you kind of miss that.
A lot of intrigue.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for the bit when it's just Ken wanting to just see more of the place, wanting to go in the tower. He's just so happy, isn't he? He's just such a lovable
he's
character.
having the best
He's just like the best hitman I've seen on film. Just the most lovable guy. And it's when he's counting them coins out and he's just $4.90. And he's like, entry's €5. Entry's €5. And this guy's a fucking dick. But I say this, and I've said this ever since. If I encounter anybody in Rihanna, I know it's hard work working in retail. I'm not taking that away from you. I've done it and I know it's hard work.
Yeah.
But turning around and going, happy in your work is one of my favourite things to say to anyone who's having a bad time. But this guy responds in the most obnoxious way, very happy. He obviously loves that job. This is just great foreshadowing, which I'll get into later on with the coins, and they're not getting accepted, but obviously we know where that's going.
Great.
And that's a wonderful thing in a mirror image. But another great thing that you don't really pick up on is when he gets to that tower and he looks down at the view and he sees Ray walking around and he points the finger at him as if he's going to shoot him, which kind of foreshadows everything else. This film has it asks a lot of questions, but gives a lot of answers. But you've really got to look for them because they're all so subtle and so nuanced. A lot of them are visual. It's just genius writing, absolute genius.
It's incredible stuff. I love the moment outside of that tower.
Oh, no,
Firstly, just before Ken goes up there, Ray doesn't want to go up.
Yeah.
Says he was raised in Dublin. He loves Dublin. If he was raised on a farm and some other things, Bruges might impress him. Yeah. But he didn't, so it doesn't.
Very diplomatic. I like that. Very well done.
That line, although hilarious, it just outlines this character's just small-mindedness and stubbornness.
Yeah.
He'd rather sit on a bench by himself in the freezing cold than go up the tower with Ken.
Yeah.
And that small-mindedness feeds right into the interaction he has with the American family.
Yeah.
It's a thread in the film. It links the Canadians at the restaurant and Jimmy. He doesn't just hate Bruges. He hates anywhere that isn't Dublin.
Yeah.
He hates anything that he doesn't know about.
Yeah.
And there are two hilarious moments here, of course, utterly offensive when he calls them a bunch of fucking elephants. I mean, outrageous. just from nowhere.
But he's so small-minded to any stereotype as well, and you should hate these people.
Yeah.
But there's something very Monty Python or even Benny Hill of him being chased around by the big fella.
The camera's just still, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a total slapstick moment.
You're just the rudest man.
Yeah, well, when Ken comes back down and is harangued by that woman, he asks Ray what happens, and he gives him this like innocent little shrug of the shoulders.
It's great. That.
Americans, isn't it?
Yeah.
Americans, isn't it?
But Ken knows he's been up to no good.
Yeah.
So a hilarious opening to the film. We don't quite know the source of Ray's pain, but we can certainly feel it.
Absolutely.
Yes, definitely.
Back to the hotel, Ray and Ken are settled for a quiet night in, awaiting a phone call, but Ray has other ideas. And this moment when they're in their room, Ray's looking out the window and it's the most beautiful view you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah.
He's got a window seat. He could stay there all night, but he's bored out of his brain. And he manages to wrangle Ken out, and he does it because he spots a kind of a small weakness in Ken's defenses. First he says, let's go out. Ken's eyes widen. Go out where? To the pub? No.
Yeah.
But because of this flicker of encouragement was there, Ray changes his approach. He takes his time about it as well, and you can see the cogs going as he's assessing his delivery and suggests going out to see all the old buildings and that.
Yeah.
Great.
Look lovely.
Really
Lit up in
like
the
seeing
nighttime.
that side of Ray. Yeah. He's not completely stupid, but presumably he wants to go to the pub and get drunk all the time in the film to numb the guilt that he's carrying around his neck.
Yeah.
So although hilarious, all of it is tinged with this sadness.
Yeah.
But his reaction when Ken says yes, come on,
All the old buildings and shit.
Bit I really love about this section of the film is when they're actually out and about and Ray gets so excited and they're filming something. They're filming midgets.
Yes.
And it's like, it's so funny, but at the same time, quite offensive.
Very offensive.
And then at the same time, quite surreal. And Farrell, you can tell, it's got this kind of innocence. It's not an ignorance. It's a real innocence. And when he goes up to Chloe, that's my favourite bit of anything, trying to talk to somebody or trying to chat somebody up. And I'm like, if that's all you have to do, I might give this a bash at some point because I've always
just talking about time bandits.
Midgets, a lot of midgets kill themselves. A disproportionate amount.
Actually.
But they're disproportionate. It's kind of all really
He's
clever
only got
dialogue.
two examples, disproportionate.
And he only knows the name of one of them. The R2D fella, no, he's still alive.
No, he's still there.
Still with
Time
us.
bandits, maybe. He's on the set. He's got in there somehow. You can tell he's obviously got the way of just moving around.
Yeah.
So he's broken through security. He's on there and fills our coffee up. He's like, hello. And just like spilling it around. And she turns in and has this incredible dialogue. It's like a pastiche of Don't Look Now. And you're like, wow, okay, right, I understand that.
Yeah,
and he
like
hasn't
this.
got a fucking clue what she's talking about. Not a fucking clue.
He's not seen it, has he?
And it's really, really good and really funny. I'll tell you what I do tomorrow with dinner. And she loves that because you can just see through this guy and just see how innocent he is, not how ignorant he is. And I think it's a really lovely moment from Farrell. And it's so brave for him to play this role at this point in his career when he's really trying to prove something. I mean, this is after like Minority Report, right? And everything's kind of gone a little bit downhill for him and he needs to, and he's just being himself. He's like, look, this is what I'm like. And he shows that innocence and he shows that like, it's got a real integrity to the role. And this is what shows it for me because it's just so nuanced. But it's so cool when she throws that card and he says it.
Nice move.
Yeah, it's really, really good. She's cool as ice pops in this film as well. And he just picks up, he's like, so fucking cool. And I'm like, yeah, that is pretty cool. I would be terrified to ring that number. If she did that to me, I'd be like, that's it, done. That's all I can do. Just give us a number. And I'm just going to tell everyone about that moment. I'm never ringing her because I'm going to fuck this up. I think it's a great character reveal of getting to know more of Ray and realizing that he isn't this big shot. He isn't clever. He's just innocent and ignorant.
Yeah, very innocent. Very childlike.
Yeah, very much so. Very, very much so.
Yeah, and that's Clemens Posey playing Chloe in this scene. And she said, reading the script was like entering Martin's universe with things you've never heard or seen. And I just wanted to be a tiny part of it. I thought, I want to say those lines.
Yeah, and she is wonderful in the film.
Really
She's got a classically kind of European quality to her.
Yeah.
So I'm going to follow this up with Ken obviously going back to the hotel by himself because Ray's out chasing Chloe. And there's that lovely bit of comedy when Marie, who's the one of the hotel naps him, Mr. Blakely, yes. No, Mr. Cranham, no, yes. Mr. Blakely, yes. Doesn't know who he is. Doesn't know who he's pretending to be here. So farcical. Doing a terrible job of keeping a low profile. And then, of course, it's the message that he's got from Harry, who is absolutely furious. And it's one of the best bits of swearing you'll ever hear. I'm only going to say the last bit, but you better fucking be in tomorrow night when I fucking call again. I'll be fucking hell to pay. I'm fucking telling you. Harry.
Harry.
He swears a lot, doesn't he?
He swears a lot, doesn't it? Because the thing is, like, once you've seen this film and you meet Harry, like, now whenever I watched it, I just get this image in my head of this scene of Marie having to take down this message, this torrent of profanity.
Yeah,
you better fucking be in tomorrow night. Oh, okay, yes, right.
And actually writing it out, like not censoring it. She's furious writing it down. Yeah. But her handwriting's so beautiful next to that typed note.
Yeah.
Visually, it's just so good. You can see her personality and her character. She's such a caring person. It's so well done.
Well, it's great, isn't that? Underneath what she's written, I'm not the receptionist. I actually own the hotel with my husband. I think it just tells you so much about her. She's not intimidated by anyone. She's just, actually, this is who I am. Mm-hmm. It's brilliant. And there's something else interesting here, which it's such a small detail, but I don't think McDonagh is the kind of writer who lets anything in his films without really thinking it through.
Oh, absolutely.
No. And it's the fact he sent Ken and Ray all the way to Bruges to wait for him to contact them, but he hasn't given them a mobile phone. And I think there's two ways of looking at this. I think, one, it's his way of controlling them, because if they have a mobile, they can go anywhere because they have to stay in the hotel, and that's him just exercising a bit of control.
Right.
But for me, the second bit, it just fits into this whole setting of Bruges where I think throughout the film it has this slight sense of being disconnected from the rest of the world. Like, I think it's very deliberate that it gets called a fairy tale place, because the fact that they don't have mobile phones, it's almost like they've gone back in time.
Very much.
To some kind of old fairy tale. It's all, the whole film for me is just ever so slightly like detached from reality. You know, the film that Jimmy is making, it's full of these weird, surreal dream sequences.
Yeah.
And so this thing of like, they don't even have a mobile phone and they're having to use like old dial-ups and rotaries.
Yeah.
That's just another one of those little touches that take the film away from normality a bit. And I really like that.
Yeah, it's a great point.
Yeah. But then I just love that lovely scene of Ray coming back, who's so happy with himself because he's met Chloe and he's not even pissed. Because we've all been there. We've all had the night where we get back in like, I've drank a lot and I'm not even pissed.
I'm not even pissed.
6 pints of beer and 7 bottles.
Yeah, and the next morning you wake up and you go, actually, yeah, I definitely was. I was just in the zone. He's just in the zone, isn't he?
He is.
That's the point.
So Ray has found a distraction from his misery in Chloe, but there's going to be hell to pay when Harry gets home.
Oh, yeah.
The director.
The man at the helm is first-time director Martin McDonagh, a celebrated playwright since the mid-90s, but it was always his goal to get into features. A first-time appearance from McDonagh on the show, and it'll likely not be his last.
Wouldn't have thought so.
Westy, what do you think of his work on In Bruges?
I think his work on In Bruges is impeccably well done. I think it shows such a confidence. You can tell the way he blocks here, the way he moves the camera. Reminds me a lot of Sam Mendes, who came from the same background.
Yeah.
It's got a very Sam Mendes kind of vibe to it, where you can see there's this space where they know where people are going to move in the frame. And I think them two directors especially show that really well. But I love how much control he's got in that space. He knows exactly what he wants you to look at. But what he does from the theatre background is gives space to the actors to move in, gives them room to perform. And he loves a performance. For me, he's very much an actor's director. Any actor wants to work with him. I can't see cinematographers lining up to do the next McDonagh film like they would want to do the next Nolan film. But I see actors lining around the block going, I'll do anything he writes down.
I want to say those lines.
Exactly. Yeah. I want
just like Clemens Posey.
Exactly. Yeah. I want to embody that character that he's envisioned. For anyone to turn around and go, this is a debut film. It's up there with Boogie Nights for me as like a debut. It's up there with Reservoir Dogs. It's one of the best debut films that I can confidently watch, and I can't find anything wrong with it. It's exactly what he wants to say, and that's what I love about a filmmaker. And really, really stands up. It's fantastic stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I want to pick up on what Westy's saying there about him being a debut filmmaker, because straight away you know what kind of a filmmaker he is. He's already got a very distinct vision and personality. The nearest comparison I could make, Westy's went with Mendes, I'd say the Coen brothers for me, because it's that broad humour with uneasy laughs and dark humour and bloody violence all mixed in at the same time.
And the same composer, obviously that helps.
Same composer as well, that does help, massive.
Yeah.
But the way he twists the plot and the characters is very Coen-esque, but at the same time, I think he makes his characters slightly more relatable. He gives them slightly bigger emotional arcs, which is easier to buy into. And that's very McDonagh. He does that in 3 Billboards. It's what he does in Banshees of Inisherin. He takes characters where you go, I'm not sure if I like them, or I'm not sure how much I like them, but I'm really interested in where they're going in this film and where this journey's going to take me. Because one thing about McDonagh is he never takes you anywhere predictable. Like, you can't guess in the opening 15 minutes what's going to happen to Ray and Ken. When Harry turns up, there's no way you'd guess what he's going to end up doing at the end of the film.
No.
And I think I mentioned this when we did our YouTube analysis on Banshees, but it's really notable to me that out of 3 of his 4 films, he's got the location in the title. It's something that's clearly very important to him. Inisherin, that's a character in its own right. Ebbing in Missouri, it's that kind of small town, forgotten place in America where those kind of events could happen. And Bruges isn't just picked at random, because it does have that beauty, it does have that fairy tale aspect, which really appeals to Ken and Harry, which bores the arse off Ray. But the beauty of that place contrasts to the violence that unfolds within it and the darkness of this story. And again, that's just pure McDonagh. So you get to the end of the film, you go, somehow he's told me exactly who he is as a filmmaker. And I think that's pretty remarkable for a pretty small-scale debut.
McDonagh, like the setting of Bruges, he paints this rich tapestry of the absurd, the vile, the hilarious, the beautiful. It's all in there. There's more un-PC comedy in here than in any film I can think of, really. Some great sight gags, some very funny wordplay, but he sits that right next to melodrama and despair and the arts. It's so layered. And the most striking thing for me is the juxtaposition of comedy and tragedy. 2 classic themes, ones that I'm sure from his time in the theatre he's very, very aware of, very fond of, and knows how to play them against each other. But I never experienced such laugh-out-loud moments right next to the crushing pain that Rain is going through. And I can really feel that in the film. And it's not something that's just one scene is pain and the next scene is humour. It's all contained within one scene at a time. Like when Ken's talking about killing people, leading to Ray talking about killing the little boy. I mean, the worst of the worst kind of guilt to reckon with.
Yeah.
But then sandwiched between that is Ray losing his shit about lollipop men knowing karate. Your quote at the start, what was he, a Chinese lollipop man? What would
Someone comes at you with a bottle.
Man?
But then you think this is throwaway dialogue. Then later on, someone comes up with a bottle and he goes, a bottle. And then you piss yourself. You're like, oh, that's why that was there. It's such a setup and payoff, the whole thing.
It's great. Yeah. And that's just one example. The film's stuffed full of them, which we'll get to as we progress through the film. Yeah. I just can't speak highly enough of McDonagh's work here. Like Bruges, it constantly reveals newer, darker things with each rewatch. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's fantastic stuff. I mean, the way that he shoots the town as well is very claustrophobic. It's all very much close-ups. There's no drone shots going over the top. There's no big sweeping landscapes. No. It's just there's a close-up on that. There's a close-up on that.
Yeah. It's the biggest one's the one from the top of the tower at the beginning, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it.
That's
it. That's it.
But it zooms in.
Yeah. And that's for a reason. That's for Ken to do the
point and shoot
gun thing. Yeah.
It's just, and then that plays off later on. So everything's got a reason. Yeah. You're seeing it for a reason. It's brilliant. Mind blowing.
McDonagh did draw inspiration from two Nicholas Roeg films. So the crime elements he took from Performance, which is the Mick Jagger film. And obviously, I mean, it's mentioned within the film, but Don't Look Now, obviously. Because that one, Venice is a character in that film and plays an important part in the narrative, like Bruges does here.
Yeah, Chloe references Don't Look Now when she says the film she's shooting as a tip of the hat to it, not an homage is too strong.
Homage is too strong. So, you're in, this is great. Yeah. McDonagh said, from the moment I saw the town, I thought this place is just so cinematic. As the film progresses, Bruges becomes darker and its gothic qualities come to the fore, which they definitely do. The film does get darker, but the thing that strikes me is, like, you know, when Ken's walking over the bridge to get the gun, it's just it's like a close-up of you don't see anything else. It's just the bridge in focus and Ken walking over it. That could be a beautiful wide shot and show all of Bruges. It's not about that. It's about him and his journey.
The film's set obviously during Christmas, but was shot in February, March. Officials from Bruges gave McDonagh license to hang Christmas decorations all over the city, and an official communication was sent out to locals explaining the out-of-season merriment.
In 2012, the mayor of Bruges put a stop to filming in the city after being flooded with requests from movie productions. And he was quite unhappy with how Bruges is portrayed in the film, which I kind of get, I guess, but look at the bigger
understandable, because all Ray says is how much of a shit it is.
You still want to go? Like, I still want to go.
Of course you do.
I think it's improved tourism. Like everyone else, I didn't even know it existed before this film. And that's why it's such a wonderful thing. It's in Belgium. All right.
It's in Belgium.
But before they got burned, the city of Bruges gave McDonagh the keys to the city. And there had only been a few films set in Bruges beforehand. As Chloe points out, there's never been a classic film set in Bruges.
Yeah. So apparently they got the all clear to film in just about every stunning location that McDonagh wanted, aside from one church. And that says a lot about how helpful the people were for him, which I think is great. You can tell as well. He's got kind of the run of the place.
You don't usually get carte blanche to shoot anywhere you want in a city.
Nah, not at all.
Well, the producer, Graham Broadbent, he said it's almost unheard of for a movie shoot to be able to film in real galleries with so many valuable pictures. We had to take out hundreds of millions of dollars worth of insurance policies to cover the possibility of any damage.
Yeah, it's unreal. Yeah. And massive close-ups of them paintings
Massive close-ups as well. Like, yeah.
At the time of release, McDonagh said, I actually can't wait to go back to Bruges, but I think I'd better go back before the film comes out there because they're probably going to kill me.
Give the keys back.
And we're going to end on McDonagh with a question from one of our Patreon supporters. I mentioned at the start that you can submit your questions for the show if you're a patron. The first one comes from Jacob Perry. Hello, Jacob.
Hello, Jacob.
Hello, Jacob.
Jacob says, plot location seems to play a very important part in McDonagh's films. Considering the Quarantino-style filmmaking McDonagh brings to the table,
very nice.
He says, not taking anything away from McDonagh as his style is uniquely his own. What unique locations would the ATRM crew like to see McDonagh next film take place in?
That's an interesting question.
It is.
Yes. Matt, do you want to take that?
I mean, I would trust McDonagh to pick anywhere and make it interesting, quite honestly. But I think his films, the kind of commonality is all the places tend to be very remote. And I think he just gets the idea that you put characters somewhere remote, it's going to be more dramatic because they can't escape. There's no easy way out. So I would say like anywhere just really extreme, like Antarctica. Put Farrell and Gleeson on the top of Everest together. 90 minutes, McDonagh filming that would be amazing.
Constantly just coming back to The Thing, you like, with fucking everything.
I know. Can't help it. It's just
McDonagh to do The Thing.
I would love McDonagh to do The Thing. It'd be incredible. put them in like the Mariana Trench and you could set it in a submarine at the bottom of the ocean. And I think McDonagh would find something interesting about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So somewhere like that.
Yeah, I had exactly the same thing. Right. I had Antarctica with the thing in mind because
really?
we've been on home. Yeah,
Jesus
I
Christ.
did. Yeah, because we've been on home soil with Banshees. Well, using artistic license saying home soil, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Europe for In Bruges, America for 3 billboards. So yeah, Antarctica or Newcastle. One of the two. When was the last time you saw our hometown on the big screen?
Well, that's funny you should say. For my answer to it, it needs to be a place that isn't actually a character. The more of a character the place is, I think the more it suffers. Seven Psychopaths being based in LA really makes that suffer because you expect something from the place.
Yeah,
and he's starting to invent places now, like Inisherin, he invented to make it a character in itself. Yeah. So really, you need a place that's quite a dull character that has a lot of tradition and has a lot of quirks. And I would say that would be South Shields for me. For him to do a film in South Shields, just to pull all of the quirks out of it and the tradition out of it, it's a fucking shithole. And I can say that because I'm from there, right? So if you're from Shields, I'm really sorry. But North Shields, South Shields, Tynemouth, Newcastle, whatever. We haven't done anything since Get Carter, so get McDonagh in here. Either that or the moon.
Brilliant. So there's a thread going between all of our answers.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your question, Jake.
Yeah, thanks, Jake.
Answers it.
Yeah.
Satisfactorily. A blinder of a directorial debut from McDonagh, one of the best in recent memory.
Definitely.
Oh, absolutely.
The cast.
We're talking about the 2 leads in this section, starting with your boy, Matt, Colin Farrell.
Yes.
Take her away.
Yes, indeed. Cousin Colin.
Yeah.
CC.
Yeah. The thing with Farrell in this film, I feel this is where he's announced himself properly as an actor. Because I think
100%.
Before this, I don't think Hollywood knew what to do with him. He had this reputation. He was a hellraiser. He was a womanizer. And I think Hollywood tried to pigeonhole him and put him in like rubbish action films. So they thought maybe he's going to be the next Russell Crowe, so we'll put him in Alexander, but that was an awful film. And none of it really worked until you get this. And you realise, no, he's a great actor. And he's great at portraying complexity and ambiguity because as a character, Ray is an absolute mass of contradictions. Like when you first meet him, he's sulky, he's sullen, like kicking the chair around in that church because he's so bored.
Just shuffling across the floor.
Amazing.
5-year-old has lost his sweets.
Yeah.
Oh my God. He's an absolute nightmare, but it's like what you've been saying. Also, he's just a big kid. Like he's so excited to see Jimmy on the film set. They're filming midgets. And he's straight over there. Literally runs to it. Yeah. So he's this like big ball of chaotic energy that can barely control, but then you dig a little deeper and you see what's really going on underneath the surface and you get those moments where you see the truth of the character and what he's going through. Like there's that great moment where he's on the date with Chloe and it's Farrell on like full beam charisma. He's got the jokes, he's got the charm, makes a joke of his issues by saying he only kills priests and kids. And then Chloe jokes back, yeah, you look like you kill kids. And he just makes that noise like tries to laugh it off, but you can see.
Oh, wow.
He has to be a contradiction for this film to work because he says unforgivable things. And he did kill the kids, so you should hate him. But Farrell's so good at portraying that genuine anguish. Like, you're caught between hating him and wanting to forgive him. And more importantly, wanting him to forgive himself. Like,
absolutely.
The bit where Ken stops him killing himself in the park and he just breaks down in those sobs.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking stuff.
It is.
And I love that touch where in his suicide note, he says, I've gone to the park because I didn't want her to see the mess, meaning Marie.
Yeah.
Because obviously she's heavily pregnant. So there's that thing of because he's killed a little boy, he's doing everything he can for Marie and that unborn child as penance. So I think if this had been anybody else, I honestly don't know if they could have made all those contradictory elements make sense as like one whole character, but Farrell does, you know. So yeah, he's excellent, great actor, great performance, great family.
Hey, I do think though,
one of our own.
I do think that this is more of a comment from Farrell about his career than it is about who he is, like playing this role. I think it's a very personal thing for him. A lot of it's around drinking and drugs, and he acts it perfectly as if it's kind of just getting through the demons that he used to be, and going from like Phone Booth, Tigerland, Minority Report, Alexander. It's like he almost turns up to Ken and goes, I've done 7 films, and I wasn't even pissed. But he was, you can tell he wasn't having a good time throughout all that. And you get that from the character. There's this real sense that he lets go of a lot of the weight that was on his shoulders. He can just be himself and he can act like he wants to act. And that's why I love this performance. It's really genuine.
It is.
Yeah. When we truly get to the source of Ray's pain, it's almost unbearable. And I think the worst of it is that note that the little boy is holding at the time he's shot.
Devastating.
Presumably he's repenting his sins, which are being moody, being bad at maths, and being sad.
Yeah.
That's so deeply affecting on a level I just can't quite explain.
That would be my note. I write that every day.
Cut the tension there, Westy. Wonderful.
That's my 3 things I regret.
But yeah, I mean, Farrell, a revelation is rare. Considering what he'd done in his career beforehand, this was never even hinted at.
No.
So Farrell said, pound for pound, it was the best thing I've ever read. Martin's got some brain on him. It's just brilliant. The characters and the situations are unique and with amazing dialogue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before they started rolling the cameras, McDonagh, Gleeson and Farrell spent 3 weeks in a Bruges hotel room together going through the script with a fine-tooth comb.
Yeah, because McDonagh said, we analysed the script, talking and reading it through and acting out little scenes, talking about the histories of the characters, so how they met, whether they were related, and it was a pretty intense amount of work, which meant by the first day of shooting, there weren't any questions we needed to ask of each other. We just went and filmed everything we'd learned.
Yeah, you can tell there's such a trust between everybody.
Brilliant.
Totally.
Gleeson said that time was a great gift. At times, it felt I should have bought a ticket at the door, given the quality of Colin's work.
They've got such an appreciation for each other.
Admiration for each other. There's such a love there. It is quite deep. You can see it. Yeah, it's amazing.
Farrell was initially unsure about being cast as Ray because the script, he said, was too good for him and that audiences would expect something different from a Colin Farrell film.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But he's reinvented it. That's what he did.
Yeah.
So a true career-defining role for Colin Farrell, giving him the praise he very much deserved.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Westy, it's over to you to talk about a man very much treasured by us at All the Right Movies.
Yes. I'm going to go for Brendan Gleeson, who for me is always great
Yes.
in whatever he's in. So strong as a character actor. He's got so much range and so much depth that you never, ever doubt the performance. He makes Troy watchable.
Yeah.
That's how good he is. He's just one of them actors where he knows and he wants to understand everyone that he's working with. And he wants to give them everything they can do. I have not got anything but absolute praise for Brendan Gleeson because everything I've seen him in, I just think he's wonderful.
Yeah, like Banshees, Gleeson, I think, is overshadowed by Farrell on the surface of it.
Yeah.
Farrell's got the funniest lines, the most obvious tragedy is Ray's storyline. He's got the most eye-catching character. But a closer look really uncovers something truly magical in Gleeson's performance.
Yeah.
It's there under the surface and it's left unsaid for the most part, but he ekes it out with his physical performance.
It's just he's got so many lovely little nuances, just his little looks.
Yeah, he is amazing. Bruges may be purgatory for Ray, but it also is for Ken. He's gone to Bruges to die. We just don't know it until the final reel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Ken's got this hugely tragic past where he's lost his wife and he'll forever be indebted to Harry because of the choices he made as a result.
Yeah.
And it's written all over his face. What does he have to live for aside from mentoring Ray and giving him the opportunity to get away?
Yeah.
He's still wearing his wedding ring as well, isn't he?
Yeah,
He is, very much. Yeah, that hangs heavy on him.
Yeah.
And it hangs heavy as well when he gets the gun. He goes, are you going to do it? Of course I'm going to do it. It's what I do. But I'm going to kill somebody, but it's not going to be Ray.
Yeah.
Yeah. And on the funny side of things, his exasperation and infuriation at Ray. When he makes Ray go around the city so he can go on his date. And he does that thing with the chairs, Matt, that you said. He said, did we not agree that if I let you go on your date tonight, you do the things that I want to do today, and you would do them without throwing a fucking moody, like a 5-year-old who dropped all his sweets. Brilliant. Oh, that bit when he asked him to go and see the vial of blood. Do I have to? Of course you don't fucking have to. Of course you don't fucking have to.
Yeah, it's the bit before that though when he explains it all in the whisper.
Yeah, he's so excited.
He brought back from the Crusades, right? And it turns
Do you know what it said to contain?
And it was dry blood, and the fucking liquid from dry blood. And it's so beautiful. It's so beautifully done. He doesn't have to do that to that level because all he's doing is accentuating Farrell's performance, not his own. It's so selfless. It's great.
Yeah.
It is.
Because Ray's doing all the raised eyebrows. And really? Oh, that's so interesting. Don't care.
No.
Just want to go to the pub.
He just goes and waits in the queue and just stands there. It's so defiant. And talking about Gleeson, McDonagh said one of Brendan's strengths as an actor is that he makes everything sound and seem so naturalistic, which is what we're getting at anyway. Like he's just making it up on the spot, which feels exactly right. Also, his natural warmth and humanity and his joy of life shine through in most everything he does.
Yeah.
Without doubt. He lights the screen up.
Nailed on.
And on the flip side of that, Gleeson said, there is a soul to Martin's work. It's robust yet delicate. You have this combination of the worst of humanity, speaking the most conscious, free language, and yet you leave with a feeling of connection to these people.
Yeah.
Gleeson and Farrell, obviously, we've talked about it, have built up quite the friendship since in Bruges. It's a wonderful thing to see, and it was further cemented by their work on Banshees.
Yeah. And there's this amazing story Colin Farrell told where he said the moment he first met Brendan Gleeson was at the Chelsea Hotel in Manhattan. And Farrell was really anxious because he knew that Brendan liked to drink. And at this point, Farrell had been 18 months sober.
Right.
And Brendan said, will you have a drink? And in Farrell's words, he went to a mini bar and he pulled out 2 bottles of water and said, I have still or sparkling. And in that moment, the simplicity of the gesture told me, there's a man that will look after you. There's a man that considers people.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
I mean, that's just class, that, isn't it?
It is.
What a classy thing to do.
Pure
Yeah, it
class.
really is.
It is, yeah.
Great story.
Yeah.
And with that, we're rounding off the cast with our second Patreon question.
All
This
right.
one comes from Liam Savage. Hello, Liam.
Hello, Liam.
Hello, Liam.
Liam says, fantastic podcast. Well, thank you very much.
No, that's very kind.
Go on.
See it again.
He says, one of my favourites, so thank you very much. And as a man from the Northeast, it's weirdly comforting to hear some proper accents in a podcast.
Oh.
All right. Okay.
Why
Fair
aye?
play, Liam.
How are the lads,
Why
man?
Some would disagree.
We're trying to tone it down, Liam.
Yeah, we're trying this thing called diction now and again.
Liam's question is this. Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell can now be classed as one of the greatest double acts in movie history, in my opinion.
All right, that's fair enough.
What other double acts can match or beat the Gleeson-Farrell Irish axes of brilliance?
Right.
Westy, do you want to take that?
I mean, I've got a few that always shine for me, but what I've tried to go for are the ones that are a little bit mismatched.
It's a classic.
De Niro and Gordon in Midnight Run.
Yes.
Amazing.
Travolta, Samuel L. Jackson in Pulp Fiction. I think they're
Brilliant.
wonderful together on the screen. Arnold and DeVito in Twins. I think that's just wonderful
Very nice.
back and forth. And what I really enjoyed, and I watched it again with the kids, and I've forgotten how good their chemistry was, is Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones in the first Men in Black.
Oh, incredible.
Oh, yeah,
I think
great.
they're really, really
great.
brilliant. It's
Yeah.
the straight man and the comedy foil. I think for me, them fours, it's up there for me, and then I'll put Gleeson and Farrell in that as well.
Very nice.
Yeah, I looked at this from a bit more of like a historical perspective, and I thought...
Laurel and Hardy.
Laurel and Hardy. Well, yeah, Laurel and Hardy, they started the whole
Absolutely.
thing. Still one of the absolute very best. They nail that dynamic straight out, and, you know, so
do,
many
like,
people are in their shadow, and that gives you Abbott and Costello and Bob Hope and Bing Crosby. Personal
nice.
favourites, though, Lemon and Matt Howe together are just gold
Nice.
every time.
Yeah.
Redford and Newman.
Yeah.
Butch
Yes.
Cassidy, the Sting, love those guys. And then I don't think you can talk double acts without getting around to Shane Black, because that's what he does.
He does it best.
Two favourites of ours, Val Kilmer, Robert Downey Jr. in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang,
Bang,
and
yeah.
obviously Gosling and Crowe in The Nice Guys.
Yeah.
Sensational.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah.
No Riggs and Murtaugh for you, Matt.
Well, I wanted to, not go the obvious route.
I didn't hear Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor, which I would
No, we're leaving that for
certainly
you.
throw
That's
there.
why.
Yeah.
Ah, that's good of you. And the other ones I had, Grodin and De Niro, Glover and Gibson. Obviously, Gibson, we don't talk about him these days.
No.
But there's magic in those performances, certainly
is.
in the first film.
Yeah.
Definitely the first one, yeah.
But I can't get enough of Gleeson and Farrell. I want these to star in Martin McDonagh films until I die.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So thank you very much for your question, Liam. I hope that satisfies it.
Yes. Thanks, Liam.
Yes, thank you, mate.
So we haven't forgotten about the other cast members. We will be talking about Ralph Fiennes' Ari later.
Yes,
Yeah.
we will.
We've talked about Clemens Posey. She's wonderful. We'll talk a little bit about Jordan Prentice as well as Jimmy.
Yes.
Both deserve a shout out for their great work.
Yeah, brilliant.
But In Bruges is all about one of ATRM's favourite double acts, Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
This episode of All the Right Movies is sponsored by BetterHelp. Without a healthy mind, being truly happy and at peace is hard. The good news is therapy works. But what is therapy exactly? It's whatever you want it to be. Maybe you're not feeling motivated right now and would like some tools to help. Or maybe you're feeling insecure in relationships or at work and not dealing well with stress. Whatever you need, it's time to stop being ashamed of normal human struggles and start feeling better because you deserve to be happy. And now you don't have to worry about finding an in-person therapist near you to help. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. Join the millions of people who are seeing what online therapy is really about. It's always a good time to invest in yourself because you are your greatest asset. And a special offer to all ATRM listeners, you can get 10% off your first month of professional therapy at betterhelp.com/ATRM. That's betterhelp, HELP.com/ATRM. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this episode of All the Right Movies.
The middle.
The second act brings with it Ray's disastrous date with Chloe and a devastating phone call from Harry.
Yep.
It's a wild night full of extreme violence and hilarity, and I'm starting off with the date.
Very good.
Yes.
Yeah. If you would write this down, it's the worst date ever.
Yeah.
But perfect for a character like Ray.
Yeah.
Ray beats up a couple in a Swiss restaurant, realizes that his date is a criminal. She has a boyfriend, and he blinds somebody. I mean, you have wrote it. McDonagh did write it, but it's crazy.
His night balances out.
Yeah. On Chloe for a moment, I think she's representative of McDonagh's vision overall and the themes of the film.
Yeah.
At first, she's alluring and inviting, but then she slowly reveals her darker side. In this restaurant scene, she clearly has a twisted sense of humor. And then we find out that she does sell drugs and that she robs tourists at gunpoint using the very thing that made her appealing in the first place.
Yeah.
And that is what Bruges does. It invites you in with its beauty, then shoots you in the alcoves. And I mean, how could Chloe be attracted to somebody who says these kinds of jokes about her hometown and about children?
Yeah.
There's obviously something very dark about her soul. But the smoking bit, the guy is an utter prick. Regardless if you don't like smoking, he's got a valid point.
Yeah.
But you can't complain if you're in the smoking section.
No, exactly. Yeah.
And Ray just can't help himself.
Yeah.
There's no way with his hair trigger that he wouldn't let this go away.
Yeah.
His line of questioning completely baffles the, as we find out later, Canadian. Is that what the Vietnamese would say? What is he talking about?
The
Vietnamese!
What the fuck the Vietnamese got to do with it?
You know exactly what he's talking about. It's so broad strokes. It's ridiculous.
This whole xenophobia he has is clearly from his sheltered upbringing.
Yeah.
I think he's only been to Dublin in his life before going to London as a hitman.
Yeah.
And that's for John Lennon is such an off-the-wall comment.
It's so funny, though. As if he blames America for John Lennon's
the
death.
whole
Like
of
the
America.
whole of America. And then when he says later on, he was Canadian. Well, they didn't kill John Lennon, did they? God.
I mean, he doesn't need much encouragement to hate other nationalities, and I suppose he's been a Beatles fan since he was a kid, and he's harboured this hatred around for it. The Americans killed John Lennon.
Yeah.
Right.
First one I meet that crosses me. That brings
that
a
punch
bottle.
comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
On both of them, I mean, she hits the table with some force.
Yeah.
Bang. A bottle.
Yeah.
No, don't bother. Bang.
Yeah.
And this is what the film's all about. Makes you laugh first and then consider your actions afterwards.
Yes.
We shouldn't be laughing at this kind of violence.
No.
And Ray's brand of humour either.
Yeah.
But it's very funny.
Yeah.
He walks out of that restaurant saying, I'd never hit a woman, having just hit a woman 5 seconds earlier.
Yeah. I'd hit a woman if she's coming at us with a bottle.
Yeah.
And then when they're back at her place, again, it's comedy and tragedy. The farce surrounding being held at gunpoint and shooting a guy in the face with a blank. Shockingly hilarious.
Yeah.
What I love, though, is the contrast of that scene to what's going on with Ken when he gets that call from Harry, because the film's done a great job of building up Harry, even though he's been off screen. And it's interesting that I think until the very end, he only ever interacts with Ken. And the interactions with Ken build up. It goes from a letter to a telephone conversation or two to the eventual face-to-face meet. But I just love this first phone conversation because it starts off and it's so confusing. You know, Ken is obviously covering for Ray being out with Chloe. So he says he's in the toilet. And Harry's response, is he doing a wee or a poo?
That's horrible.
Like, what's that matter? What a weird
It's
thing to
also
ask.
really childish as well.
Really childish.
He's really childish. But you get the sense that there is history between Ken and Harry, and they do go back away. But even so, Ken still doesn't know how Harry will take certain things. So when he casually mentions that he's enjoying Bruges, but Ray isn't, that silence for Harry just goes, what?
Like
the tension in that.
Yeah.
The tension.
Ken knows his face drops.
Oh, yeah, because he knows this isn't even something he should try to laugh off. Harry is so volatile and so what's going on, you know. How can fucking so-and-so not fucking be somebody's fucking thing? Like, it's terrifying but hilarious at the same time that someone would get so angry about that. But the bit that I think is the funniest in this scene is when Ken gets him calmed down by spinning him that absolute bullshit.
Yeah.
Do you know what he said to me? Ken, I know I'm awake, but I feel like I'm in a dream. In Gleason, he's incredible just lying back on the bed. His expression's great.
Is this going to work?
Oh, I think I got away with that one.
Yeah.
So it's really, really funny, but then it absolutely turns in its head when Harry just goes, because he wasn't a bad kid, was he?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, and also when he's talking about Ray in the past tense.
Past tense, yeah.
And Ken knows immediately what Harry means. He now knows
Yeah.
why he's there, what he's got to do, and he can see the devastation on his face. So
Yeah.
it's a brilliant scene, and I just don't know if Gleason's ever been better than this scene because it's all him on the phone.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And the great thing about that scene as well is when they're on set is McDonagh's reading back Harry's lines. So
Oh, fantastic.
Gleason's reacting to like McDonagh talking. So McDonagh like knows exactly what that timing's going to be. And the way that that's matched to McFine's doing it just over the phone is incredible.
There's a nice little nod in this scene to Touch of Evil, the Orson Welles film.
Yeah, that's why he's
Yeah,
watching
nice.
the TV, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
one of the most famous long takes in cinema history,
Yeah,
that
and
opening.
this is
And
all
then
one
this
take.
in itself is one take.
And this one is,
Yeah.
6 minutes long take. Technically brilliant stuff. Impressive. Incredibly impressive from
It's
Gleason.
so easy to miss that it's one take.
That is.
Yeah.
Very much.
I would go for the highly controversial moment where they're at the bar, they're introduced that they've got cocaine, and they go back to the hotel room. And there's
Yeah.
hookers there, a racist dwarf, and they start getting into these conversations. Now, for me, that would make a good film. And it does make a good film. I imagine Colin Farrell is very, very comfortable in this situation. I think
Yes.
he's been there many, many times in somebody's kitchen at like 5 o'clock in the morning, off his face,
Yeah.
talking about shit like this. And it's the way that Farrell's performance in this really pulls it off. When that cigarette is the only thing in his life.
Yeah, he loves it.
I'm definitely fighting with the Vietnamese. He's gasping for it. And you always have these elements and these different elements that are brought into it where it's such a ridiculous thing to talk about. And I think it's just the way the whole thing is personified and made into it. It's almost funny, but at the same time, it's really relatable where we've had these conversations where you've had a little bit too much. You've gone back to someone's house and
You
someone's
say
been
some ridiculous things.
Someone said something ridiculous, but you kind of have to back it up because it's such a ridiculous thing to talk about, like the blacks versus the whites and all the black midgets going to fight all the white midgets. Oh, that'd be a good film. All right, great. It's like, you don't decide this shit, man. But it's just Gleason's interjection because it's so ridiculous. And then he turns around and you find out that his wife was black and was killed by a white man.
Yeah.
And where do I stand in all this blood and carnage?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you're going to have to make your own decision of this. And it's just, again, such a ridiculous thing that could have been spun out of control. Gleason comes in and just really anchors it down and locks it down. It sobers you immediately when you're watching the whole thing. And you're sober to it and you're like, oh my God. And then the brilliant thing about this whole conversation is that what is set up to know that Harry killed him, that Harry killed the person who killed his wife.
Yeah.
And he had his back, and that's how important Harry is to him in this setting, which could have been so throwaway, but it isn't. And Ray knows that.
Yeah.
And then it finishes quite funnily with that karate chop. It's just like, I didn't know you don't know karate, bang. Like, and they both say, don't say you didn't have it coming.
Yeah.
And Gleason says it first, and then he's like, he finishes with short ass. But if he'd finished with what Gleason had said, don't say you didn't have it coming, which is a fairly straight, grown up thing to say, is like, this is too much for me.
Yeah.
2 monkey hookers and a racist dwarf, right? I'm fucking out of here. It could be really offensive. It should be really offensive, but all of a sudden it's really heartfelt. And I think that's just down to McDonagh's writing, his direction and the performances. I think it's just a wonderful scene.
Great. Yeah. I just don't think there's a funnier line in this film than Jimmy saying, you don't know how much shit I've had to take off black midgets, man.
Ray's like, that's understandable or something. He's like, yeah, it's really understandable. What? But it just, everything is just, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. And it builds and builds and builds where you're just like in a comfortable state of being like, oh, I'm in this conversation now. And then Gleeson goes, bang, sledgehammer.
Yeah. Great.
There's a number of deleted scenes from the film. Most of them build on Ray's boredom and Ken's enchantment with Bruges. There's one flashback to Harry as a child in Bruges and a hilarious one with Harry on the train making his way into the city.
Yeah, the one that stands out the most, though, I think, is the one that gives a backstory to Ken and Harry's relationship, because it depicts a young Harry, played by Matt Smith, actually, avenging the death of Ken's wife. It's pretty shocking as well, that brutal, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get more of Ken's past in this scene in particular, but the one that you're talking about, Matt, is really bizarre. Harry waltzes into a police station and decapitates a policeman who was responsible for killing Ken's wife.
Yeah.
It's very crudely done in the deleted scene, and I suppose it throws up the question, how the hell did Harry think he could get away with something like that?
Yeah.
Just waltzing into a police station and beheading the policeman.
Yeah.
I mean, he's crazy enough to do it, but how didn't he go down for it?
No.
Yeah, I think the only reason they left it out was because the CGI didn't look good enough, or the effect wasn't good.
It's very rough, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. But I think it's a really important plot point, and all they leave it to is this. Did they get him? Yeah, Harry Waters got him.
Yeah.
Bang.
Jordan Prentice plays Jimmy in the film. He said of his character, Jimmy only adds to the unavoidable, surreal nature of the whole place and experience for Ken and especially Ray.
Yeah.
He's very disgruntled, angry soul, and as an actor, I love playing the scenes where Jimmy voices his bizarre theories.
He's great as well, isn't he?
He is. He's very good.
Yeah.
McDonagh said, though, about writing a little person into a script, he said that because the character is an actor, it allows you to explore darker themes. And he said, because obviously all they ever get to play is an elf or a munchkin or something like that. So I kind of wanted to explore, how does that affect you if you are a good actor? How do you live? What do you turn to? How does it make you feel? In this case, he turns to coke and hookers.
And I mean, McDonagh's outlook, he might just be onto something. And like, don't be offended immediately. Explore it immediately and find out what is upsetting you. What is the stereotype and address it and make it stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make it stupid so that people go, well, I'm not going to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a really great outlook.
Yeah, I agree with you. So a wild night for certain, and with morning comes the day of reckoning.
Oh.
Next up, Ken stops Ray killing himself in the park, packs him off on a train, and calls Harry with the very bad news.
Yeah.
And I'm starting with the scene in the park. It's so incredibly complex, this scene. Ken doesn't want to kill Ray, but he has to. But when he nears, Ray pulls a gun out on himself and Ken stops him. Now, as Harry quite rightly points out later in the film, not only have you refused to kill the boy, you've stopped the boy from killing himself, which would have solved my problem, which would have solved your problem, which sounds like it would have solved the boy's problem.
Yeah.
It really is that simple.
Yeah.
But McDonagh weaves this complex web of human emotion and compassion into proceedings. I think this is the moment where Ken suddenly realizes his calling.
Yeah.
He's been a lost soul for years after the death of his wife. And now, this time in this place with a soul to save, he knows what his purpose is. It's a beautifully realized bit of writing. And on top of that, you've got a heart-wrenching performance from Colin Farrell.
Yeah.
We can all feel his pain. There's real emotion, but the fact that he's chosen a child's playground as his suicide spot is darkly comic.
Yeah.
I suppose in his heart, this is the obvious choice to do it, to repent his sins.
Yeah.
But I mean, have a day off, Ray. Yeah. These kids don't want to see your brain splattered all over the swings.
I think the main thing is you see a child playing with a mother, and he does see children in the film, and it goes into slow motion when that happens. But I think what he wants to do is just witness a child being alive before he takes himself out.
That being the last thing he sees.
See them happy and see them alive, and that's why he goes to a kids' park and seeing them play and seeing them happy. Which is why he wants to do it.
Go around to the alcoves afterwards.
Well, maybe he's going to, but the kid's left by that point. There's nobody there. All he does is watch the kid. When the kid's left, he pulls the gun out.
Yeah, no, but there'll be kids coming later.
Well, maybe, but that's not his problem then, is it?
Doesn't mind if they see the mess.
I mean, it just confirms Ray's naivety and that he really is a child at heart.
Yeah.
And there are two standout moments of humour. When Ray asks Ken what the fuck he was doing, he says nothing, as he hastily shuffles the gun behind his back.
I was just behind the
great
thing.
timing. Yeah. But the laugh out line for me is in the aftermath of this scene. The two fellas are sitting on some kind of child's apparatus, and Ken takes Ray's gun, and Ray says, "A great day this has turned out to be. I'm suicidal. My mate tries to kill me. My gun gets nicked, and we're still in fucking Bruges." Slapping his thighs. So angry. He really hates the place. So that balance that we've been talking about all the way through, it's there in this scene, and it's magnificent stuff.
Yeah. After this is when we finally get to meet Harry, when Ken rings him. And this is the scene that sealed the deal for me with this film.
Yeah.
This is magic. This is amazing. I love Ken on the other end of the phone, just throwing his words back at him. Quite like Bruce. It's like a fucking fairy tale or something that just hangs up.
Yeah.
And
Brilliant.
then that cut defines the first time you've seen him. It's a perfectly timed amount of silent rage and disbelief. And he's just taking in what Ken's done, so he's looking out the window before he starts laying into that phone handset. And he's so angry, he smashes it onto the floor, but picks it up to put it back on the desk just so he can keep on smashing it.
Yeah.
And then this leads to the line of the film for me. You know, his wife comes in, "Harry, it's an inanimate fucking object." "You're an inanimate fucking object."
Yeah. Unreal.
Amazing.
So good.
Amazing, because we've all been so annoyed at someone or something. We've said something ridiculous because it's the first thing we can think of.
Yeah, it's her reaction when she walks back into the sitting room, just like shrugging, just like, "Oh, he's at it again.
He's doing it again."
Like he does this every week.
Yeah. "You're an inanimate fucking object." It's just been burned into my brain from the first viewing. It's amazing. It's such a great introduction to him because, he's terrifying, he's violent, but look at him with his kids. He's great with his kids, you know.
Softly spoken.
Be good for mummy and in a motor. Yeah. And it's interesting, he doesn't have like a trophy wife or like a gangster's mole on his arm. He's got this vibe of like, he's more like a successful businessman, but he's got this flip side to it.
Yeah.
You know, and he's great with her as well. Like, "I'm sorry for calling you an inanimate object." Like, genuinely sorrable.
I was upset.
I was upset.
Yeah. It's when he's talking to the kids as well. "I've got to go to Bruges."
It's about Ken.
And then he's talking about Ken. He's looking at his kids when he's talking about Ken.
Yeah.
So, you know, the kids, like, obviously
kids
know
know
who he is.
Yeah.
It's so much depth to it. It's amazing.
It is. And then it sets up the other thing, which obviously becomes really important, is underneath it all, he's a man of principle. You know, he says to his wife, "It's a matter of honour." And that's why he's going by himself. He's not sending the boys.
He says that to his kids.
Yeah. It's a matter
It's
of
about
honour.
Ken. It's a matter of honour. It sums the character up.
Yeah.
Great.
It's brilliant. I just love that scene so much.
It's incredible.
I'll go for the bit after that. They get Ray on the train. He says he's going to kill himself in a couple of weeks anyway. "You know, you're right." And then the door shuts.
That shrug.
I know.
But that shot, watch it again. It starts like in front of Gleason. He's looking into the camera. Camera pans round, comes around, and reveals Gleason stand on the platform as it goes away. That's really powerful. And then he's just sat there, see the guy come on, and you just think, this film's going somewhere else. It's meant to be in Bruges all the time. He's on a train now. He's gone somewhere else, as you would normally think. And it's a great callback. Like I've said, there's so many mirrors in this film, so many plot mirrors that start and then end. And you go, "Well, where's this one going to come from?" And he's like, "That's him. That's the motherfucker." And you're like, "Oh, fuck."
Shit.
But before that, it's Farrell's performance for me in this sequence, because he's had enough of the script. He's had enough of trying to fit in. I heat the Canadian, and his eyebrows just come into this like, "I heat the Canadian." I don't know what you're talking about. It's so funny. Every time I hear him say, "You heat the Canadian," and it's like, "We're taking you back to Bruges." Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And then when he's got the realization as well that he's like, "Canadian." Oh, shit.
Yeah.
And he knows
Great.
that he's trying to get away from it, and he's getting pulled back.
Yeah.
And that's incredible for me from a writing point of view, from a direction point of view, from a performance point of view, where you think this film's going somewhere else and it pulls you back.
Yeah. So with all the aggressors' conversion on Bruges, we're headed for a bloody showdown.
The crew.
The crew on In Bruges brings with it a whip-smart screenplay from Martin McDonagh, music from a legend in his field, and incredible cinematography from a relative unknown. Starting off with the screenplay, I'm going to talk about probably the main theme in the writing, and that is of Bruges being representative purgatory for Ray.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
He's been sent there by Harry before his fate is sealed. This is visualised in the Hieronymus Bosch painting The Last Judgment, which they see in the museum.
Yep.
It's probably the only thing in Bruges that Ray takes a mild interest in, apart from women and beer and drugs.
I like this one.
Yeah, what is it about? And these are the layers that the film has under the surface. It's a very funny film, very violent film, full of soul-crushing despair and uniquely optimistic. And under all of that is weaved this classical art and literature narrative. When has this kind of thing ever sat next to a string of prejudice jokes towards anyone that Ray sees as different to him?
Yeah.
It's a pretty remarkable thing that McDonagh achieves in his writing here. And we'll talk about the purgatory again at the end of the film, but also in that museum moment, Ray gives his understanding of the concept. He says, you weren't really shit, but you weren't all that great either. Like Tottenham. Now, as a Tottenham supporter myself...
wounding for you.
I was going to ask, what does this mean? I was like, because it doesn't mean the place, surely. Is it their placement on the table or something?
They're talking about it as if it's an alien concept.
Well, yeah.
Placement on the table.
The Premier League, are they like second or something?
No, they are usually shit.
Right, okay.
Usually kind of mid-table. We've been doing better in the last, say, 10 years, but we never won anything for years.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what Ray is talking about here. And it's a fair cop, really. McDonagh said that this line is a constant source of anxiety in his life. If Tottenham do turn a corner and start to pick up trophies, this will render the line obsolete. I think McDonagh is safe on that one, though. And as a side note on the dialogue in the film, I think it just bristles with energy, offbeat humour delivered by offbeat characters like Yuri, the local heavy giving guns out like there's no tomorrow. When he's talking about the alcoves.
Oh, yeah. So
and he says,
good
you use this word, alcoves?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes. Or nooks and crannies. Nooks and crannies, yes.
How fucking cool is his house as well, though?
His house looks amazing.
It's like a museum of
Yeah,
shit.
it's fantastic.
There's no way you could be comfortable there.
Do you want some dum-dums?
I don't know why that's so irresistible, but it is. Nooks and crannies. I absolutely love it. This
Great
guy,
back
I
and
love him.
forth. Yeah.
Fantastic.
What I want to focus on, the use of language, not so much the profanity, but the insults, which are like 90% of Ray's dialogue.
Yes.
Because I do know people who've sat down to watch this and said, I had to turn it off. I couldn't cope with the language.
Right.
And I do.
Understandable.
Good. Never
Yeah,
speak
it
to
is
them again. Good judge of character there.
Classic Westy.
Yep.
Classic Westy. And I do get that because it can be tough to listen to, and certainly some of the things Ray comes out are hair-raising, to say the least.
Yeah.
But I think it's worth pointing out, if you ever read or listen to an interview with Martin McDonagh, he's clearly a very intelligent and erudite man. He doesn't litter his own speech or interviews with
Not
the
at all.
torrent of C-bombs.
No.
And I think it's a really good example of realising that just because a writer writes a character a certain way, it doesn't mean that the writer agrees with either what they say or how they say it. It's just about how that character is. And with Ray, those insults that constantly come out of his mouth, like we say, he's obviously had a very sheltered life and he just doesn't understand the world, really, outside of Dublin.
Not at all.
And it tells you he has no filter. And for me, it's a way to make you unsure. How much should you like this guy? Because on one hand, you've got Farrell with this really charismatic, funny performance. But then on the other hand, he killed a kid. And then you add into that the language that he uses. And it keeps you off balance. You get to the end of the film and you think, I don't know if he's going to live or die here. And I also don't know how I feel about that. Like, have I forgiven him? Or is this...
It's a remarkable thing.
Yeah, or is he irredeemable? And this is fair enough what's happened to him. And that, to me, is why McDonagh puts that language in Ray's mouth. He doesn't put it in Ken's mouth. Ken never says anything like that. Harry does occasionally, but again, with Harry, you're not supposed to really like Harry. He's funny, but not likable. And I think it's the sign of someone quite brave to write lines of dialogue where he's essentially saying, I'm going to make you laugh at something you shouldn't be laughing at. And it's the shocking nature of it which makes you laugh. And the thing is, he's not doing it just for shock value. Personally, there's nothing I dislike more than shock comedians, because I find that quite boring. Like, anyone can say something offensive and get up on stage.
Crap.
Yeah, and it takes no thought to it, but it takes real intelligence to say, this is why my character is saying these particular words. And yes, it's horrible, but that's the point. And I think McDonagh's writing treats his audience with a huge amount of intelligence to understand that.
Yeah, very much. He said the word is more about the rhythm. He said, I listen to a character talk in my head and that's what they say and that's what I hear. And he said, but as a person, I don't swear.
Yeah, he never does. I've never heard him swear in an interview or anything.
But doing research into this, there are 126 uses of the F-bomb in the film, around 1.18 per minute.
Rapid fire. Well, I mean, you could top that if we just let you go for 107 minutes.
Absolutely.
Couldn't you?
All the shit you've had to cut out.
Jeez, he swears a lot.
It's the same as Tarantino not sitting there just doing the N-bomb every minute, but he knows that his characters need to say it. And he's not afraid to understand that his characters understand that language, but he doesn't necessarily understand that language. And it's really brave to be able to put that down and think that people don't judge you for it. And you don't think that that's me personally. I'll be terrified to write that down in the screenplay and all this kind of stuff.
Because it had to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
Of course it does. But I think he just understands that. And I think that comes down to the way that he balances it with an introduction and then a resolution. But a lot of what he says makes sense later on, and it has a reason and it has a purpose. And it's not just said to be offensive. He says it for his characters to say it. Yeah. And for his characters to have an arc and for them to come from one route to another route. And he's done it time and time again. To me, he shows like a real intelligence, like Matt said. I'll always say Tarantino's fearless. I always will. And McDonagh's the same. Is one of them real artists. I'm not even going to call him a writer. I'm not even going to call him a director. I'm just going to call him an artist. But someone who can get something and make it accessible, make it funny, make it sad. And how many times have you sat next to someone and go, I know you're a C-bomb and you're this. And you want to just express yourself in that way where it's so blunt and it's so matter of fact, but it's not offensive. There's love in it. And he understands it. And I think that's what he is as a writer. And I think that's why it takes him so long between films. Yeah. Because there's so much emotion and he wants to get it right every time. And I really appreciate that.
I agree. Yeah. Everything's perfectly placed in a McDonagh film. There's nothing out of place. Yeah. Everything has a purpose.
Yeah, for me it does, definitely.
And I know that McDonagh conceived the idea for In Bruges after a day trip to the place itself, and he'd actually went there on a date, but the date cancelled on him. So he was left alone in the city trying to keep himself entertained. And he said he was initially enchanted by the architecture and the history, but he soon became bored because he said there wasn't much to do apart from go to art galleries. He just wound up getting drunk instead. And he said that kind of became two characters in my head, the culture-loving geek and the drunken slut.
Yeah, you can totally see that though. Like if you go there on a date and you get turned down, you can, I want to appreciate this place, but how quickly that's going to be worn out. It's going to be pretty instantaneous.
Yeah,
he said, so I just let those characters speak in my head, and I thought, why would these two people be in a town like Bruges when they don't want to be?
Yeah.
And that's when the whole idea of them being hitmen came up and their escape and a horrific job that went wrong.
Yeah.
And he actually stayed in the same hotel room that the boys did.
Yeah.
On his original visit to the city.
Oh, amazing.
You can tell it's his experiences of going to these places, wanting to get something from it, and just being like, I'm not getting anything from it. What would I do? No, I don't. Do I have to go and touch it? No, I don't have to. You can see him talking to himself.
You don't have to.
In his original script, the two hitmen were from London, but this was changed when Gleeson and Farrell came on board. I thought it was ridiculous to make them put on London accents. It was such an easy change to make them Irish gunmen working out of London. And I think it kind of adds an extra frisson to the whole thing of having British boss with two Irish gunmen. It is kind of like Ireland as well, isn't it, Bruges?
Yeah, but it's got that history to it,
Yeah. That would have been the Guy Ritchie spin-off that we hated from the poster.
Yeah, would have.
Yeah.
There have been similarities drawn between Harold Pinter's play The Dumb Waiter about two hitmen waiting for a job and shooting the breeze.
That was a big influence on it.
And the two aliases that are given at the hotel are Cranham and Blakely. The actors Kenneth Cranham and Colin Blakely starred in the TV adaptation of The Dumb Waiter.
Oh, right, nice.
Right.
Nice
tie-in.
Yeah, lovely.
So despite some clear influences, I think we all agree, an incredible piece of writing from Martin McDonagh.
Yep.
Next up, we're talking about the score for In Bruges, composed by Coen favourite Carter Burwell.
Yes.
Matt, the music in the film, what are your thoughts?
I think the music was one of the first giveaways that this wasn't going to be the film I was worried it might be. Because I think...
yeah, definitely.
Apart from that guitar at the end, which kicks in when Harry's chasing Ray. Everything else, I think, feels very timeless. Like, just lots of these very, like, melancholic piano melodies. Just very subtle, just layered over the top. And, you know, there's no, like, edgy indie songs slapped over the top of scenes to, like, this will give it a kick up the arse. This will make it seem cool. The film's not about that.
None of that.
It's not investing in that. It's one of those cases where, you know, the music is just always about serving the scene. So the only song you get is Raglan Road at the end, which does work really well with Ken's death, and it is the only song there. So, you know, I really appreciate how it is removed from the whole kind of Brit pop Guy Ritchie, Edgar Wright type of soundtrack, a song every 10 minutes to jazz it up a bit. Don't get me wrong, they have their place and they work in their films.
Oh, yeah.
But that wouldn't work for this film.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's certainly the otherworldliness feel to the music, like it's from a bygone era. I really feel it does evoke that fairy tale that we keep hearing about. But there's a sinister side to it that never is too far away from the surface, just bubbling under. So no matter how funny the film gets, we can never get too comfortable because we can feel that there's something sinister lurking around the corner of the music.
Brooding.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's full of melancholy and sadness. Burwell said that it was very important that sitting next to the comedy in the film, the music had to be poker straight and take itself very seriously.
Yeah.
He said the more serious the music is, the sillier the goings-on in the film will appear.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. It puts me in mind of those, slightly different tone, but it puts me in mind of those great Elmer Bernstein scores for Animal House and Ghostbusters, which are straight as a die next to this absurd comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Harry's theme, like the music that accompanies Harry. It's like really that boom and dramatic.
Yeah, it is.
As he's walking over the bridge.
Yeah.
But
then that converse of how ridiculous the scene is when he meets Ken.
Yeah. It's like Fargo.
It's very like
It
Fargo.
is. Yeah, very similar. Yeah.
Westy, what about you, the music in the film?
I find it just very, very unselfish and very refrained. He's very much a visual composer because you don't notice it. You don't want to turn around and buy a Carter Burwell score separately to the film. I think it's a perfect marriage between visual and audio, and it impacts on every single thing that you see. The way that he can support a voiceover, it just sits underneath it and swims. It's like the audio, like if you're watching Ken walk over a bridge, the audio's underneath it. And that's how it feels when I'm watching this film. Like the audio's just in the alcoves, it's in the shadows, and you're watching when the sun hits, and that's the visual, but you're getting everything else from the shadows. And I think that's what Carter Burwell does really, really well in this.
Yeah, a great score reflecting the subdued elegance of the city.
Yeah,
for certain.
Definitely.
Finally, a man we've not talked about on the show, Gil Brild. I would have said we're unlikely to talk about him again, but he's recently shot Alexander Payne's The Holdovers, which is catnip for us, so there's a chance.
Beautiful looking film, that.
But what about his work on In Bruges, Westy?
Yeah, I think what Brill does with this is really support McDonagh's view and his stylistic vision, but doesn't lock it down into any real time or moment. I'm astonished that this film is as old as it is. Every time I watch it, I go, oh, Colin Farrell looks really old now. But this came out last year, surely, in Bruges. It came out, it's so fresh.
15 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. I look at my daughter, I'm like, this is older than you are, and I just don't get it. Because it's just shot in such a way that's so classical, that's so selfless. In the same way that Carter Burwell did the music, I think that what Brill brings to this is just exactly what McDonagh wanted him to do. And he does it so well. I don't really feel that there's an argument there going, we should shoot Bruges in like wide angles and we need a drone shot over the church as Ken falls out of it and then it sweeps down and it does this. Now we just need a point of view shot from there, that from there, that from there. And it's one of the first films where I really don't overanalyze what it's shot on, what lenses they used. I don't really care because it all just blends into the narrative. It all blends into the performance. Everything's just such a complete thing. I know that I'll never be able to replicate it. So I don't really care what it's shot on. Even if I knew, and even if I got that camera, I couldn't do this. So that's how good his work is on it, to be fair.
Great. Yeah, I really like his two-shot framing of the characters when they're talking side by side. They seem oddly out of place in the frame, which I guess is a reflection of their misplace.
Yeah.
Not just in Bruges, but in the world, considering their line of work. And Brill focuses on the imposing nature of the city in those two shots. And overall, really, it feels like the city's almost oppressive in the way that it dominates the frame.
Yeah.
Further emphasizing like that purgatory theme. It's judging Ken and Ray. Yeah. It's all very intimate. Yeah. And the camera lingers on faces, not least Ken, where we're able to see what's going through his head without any dialogue to confirm it.
Yeah.
The key thing for me is, I think, how the look of the film slowly changes. Like I said in the opening scenes, it seems very bleak. There's a real coldness to it, and you do kind of understand why Ray isn't impressed by any of it. But I think as it progresses, and he finds more and more there to enjoy and more of a reason to think about still being alive, I think the look of the film does slightly soften. And again, this for me is evidence of why McDonagh doesn't leave a word of dialogue in here without really thinking about it, because by the time you get to the final third, that freeze and fog that Ken was lying about earlier does actually roll in. It is in that scene.
It does.
Yeah.
And all the street lamps are lit, the Christmas trees, the Christmas lights have been put on as well. So it does, again, have that fairy tale aspect to it. It does have just that slight divorce from reality look to it. It has a glow to it. And that, again, it contrasts to all the violence that's happening. So just everything what you two guys have said, really, it just supports the story and McDonagh's vision so well.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it really captures McDonagh's vision. A superb crew on In Bruges. Production design by Michael Carlin is incredible.
Yes.
Yuri's apartment is something else. But the standouts are the outstanding screenplay by McDonagh, Carter Burwell's haunting music, and Eigil Brill's eye for the pain and beauty in the story.
Yes, definitely.
The end.
The final act, it's all happening on the cobbled streets of Bruges. I'm sure this is the moment that you've been waiting for, Matt. Your entire life. I have the bleeper on standby.
Yes. You're going to need
Take
it.
away.
Here we go.
You go. I mean, I'll say this, Harry gets to Bruges very quickly, doesn't he?
He
Very
does,
quick.
doesn't
Very
he?
quickly
Very quickly.
indeed.
He gets to Bruges quicker than he gets down off the tower.
He really does, and it makes you think, like,
Yeah.
has Ken just been sat there in that bar all day, just getting pissed, waiting for him? I mean, I don't blame him. Every beer in this film looks amazing. I get really thirsty
But it
watching this
looks
film.
so strong
It
as
does
well.
as well, like, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
4 in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm going to bed.
No chance. No chance. So you've had this build-up. You know Harry is the threat. You know what he wants to do to Ray, and almost certainly what he wants to do to Ken now as well. But the whole scene just plays out as absolute farce. And I think a lot of that is because Ken and Harry have known each other for so long. They've just got these lingering resentments towards each other.
Yeah.
So when Harry says, excuse me, Ken, I have the capacity to change. Yeah, you have the capacity to get fucking worse. Oh, now we're getting down to it.
Now we're getting down to it.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
relaxes in his seat.
It's really funny. The whole thing to me, it's like a really bad appraisal with your manager at work. You know the kind of meeting where like, why didn't you do your paperwork? Why hasn't that been filed? Where's that gone? It has that whole vibe to it, and it's Harry's increasing disbelief with the situation. You know, Ken thinks he's explaining it. Well, the boy's suicidal, Harry. He's suicidal. You're suicidal. I'm suicidal.
I'm suicidal.
Everyone's fucking suicidal. We don't all keep going on about it. Really funny. And it's really harsh. But at the same time, McDonagh's just told you how the film's going to end.
Yeah.
And there's no way you would guess that these characters are going to kill themselves, because you think, well, how and why? It's so clever how he signposted it, but not in an obvious way at all. But Harry just gets funnier and funnier when Ken tells him he actually stopped Ray from shooting himself. The look on Harry's face. He goes, hey, what? This just gets fucking worse.
It's fucking worse, yeah.
Tries to say it. We were down the park. Let me get this right. You were down the park. Just so farcical. Complete disbelief what these two idiots have been doing on this supposedly simple job. And it's so brilliantly written, because when Harry makes that big deal about how if it had been him that had killed the kid, accidentally or otherwise, he'd have killed himself on the fucking spot. On the fucking spot, mate.
Yeah.
Which you think is all bluster. But no, as it turns out, this is what's going to happen to Harry at the end. It's set the end up absolutely beautifully. It's right under your nose, and you don't realise for a second. And I've not even mentioned Ken calling Harry's kids.
Your quote from the top. Insult my fucking kids.
Going overboard.
That's going overboard, mate.
He's really insulted by it. He's furious.
Do you know what my favourite bit about the whole bit is, like, when he talks about the alcoves, and they're so much good friends.
Yeah.
And they're like,
It's
what's he
lovely,
going
isn't
on
it?
to you about the alcoves
yeah,
as
that's
well?
what I mean.
Yeah,
They've got
that's
this history. They've got this
Yeah,
history
yeah.
together.
Alcoves.
And they've got this, like, and it stops and it pauses, and then they're like, right, we've got to get back to this again.
Yeah.
And then he's talking about the kids, and he insults them, and it's when
Yeah, I fucking got that.
it's when Vines goes like, what have they done?
Yeah.
That line
they done?
really hits me. He's like, what have they done?
Yeah.
Like, fuck. Because he knows he's like a man of principle, and he's like, actually, what have I know what I've done. Yes, I know I am.
Yes.
Right. What have they done? Nothing. So we'll retract it now.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't justify that.
Yeah.
Well, I love the scene when they go up to the bell tower.
Yeah.
McDonagh establishes location impeccably in one shot. The camera circles Chloe and Ray kissing as Ken and Harry walk past, blissfully unaware.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Wonderful. All the pieces come together beautifully. The moment when Harry and Ken get to the entrance, it's been amazingly set up in the first act. this guy behind the desk is a total hard-on.
Yeah, he's a pain in the arse. Yeah.
And he's in for much more than he bargained for with Harry. I mean, he is very aggressive, poking Harry in the forehead. Englishman. And Ken's reaction's amazing.
so
when he starts to do that, he's like,
he just walks away.
I'll just walk away.
Just walks off, yeah.
But with that little bit of thinking, he deserves it, to be fair. He was a dick to me earlier.
You get what's coming to you here.
Yeah.
But when they get to the top, it's just magnificently funny and tragic and life-affirming and everything in between. Ken puts his gun down. He's not fighting anymore. Harry says, "Don't come over all Gandhi on me." But then Ken goes into this heartfelt place of real affection for Harry and what he's done for him. Really emotional.
Yeah.
And Harry can't believe it. And he lets out this kind of like hilarious, exasperated noise when he says, "I love you." Unreservedly, he goes, "What?"
What?
And because of this outpouring of emotion, Harry is close to tears himself and he can't shoot Ken. But because he's gone to Bruges on a mission to kill Ken, he's got to get his pound of flesh somewhere. So out of frustration, he shoots him in the leg. Says, like, "I'm not going to do nothing to you just because you're standing about like Robert fucking Powell." Like who? Like Robert fucking Powell. Jesus of fucking Nazareth.
When I first heard that, I fucking buckled. It was me nana's favourite performance of Jesus was Robert Powell. Like Robert Powell was like the ultimate Jesus portrayal.
Right.
And I was wetting myself. No one's heard of Robert Powell. Robert fucking
No,
Powell.
nobody knows who Robert Powell is.
Even Ken doesn't. He's like, "You do."
Oh, it's wonderful. And after this, he even helps him downstairs like a brother.
I know,
but all
right.
that changes when Eric comes on the scene. And
Yeah.
one of these fellas has to take the bullet.
Yeah.
Ken must have to have a go at Harry to prevent him from getting to Ray. And as a result, Harry has to defend himself.
Yeah.
It's beautifully constructed.
Yeah.
It is.
On casting finds, McDonagh said, "I wanted to cast completely against type. Go for someone who'd bring an intensity and darkness and danger to it." He also brought something I hadn't seen in him before, which was his brilliant comic timing.
Yeah.
Which
He's hilarious.
absolutely.
Isn't it? So funny.
So good.
In Finds himself, he took inspiration from a real favourite of ours. We all love this one, The Long Good Friday.
Oh,
with
nice.
Bob Hoskins' incredible performance as Harold Shand. In Finds said that Shand is this savage gangland madman, but he also has a sensitive side. He's a family man with a strict moral code.
Yeah, he said you get a sense of that world with the Bob Hoskins character where he has a girlfriend and he has friends.
Yeah.
And then there's this tough business side. And you
Yeah.
do get that scene. And that's why that scene, the inanimate object scene, is very important. It's not just gut-bustingly hilarious.
No.
We need to see him at home
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
to show his layers.
Yeah.
And I think it's appropriate now to introduce our third and final Patreon question. This one comes from DG Barkles. Hello, DG.
Hello, DJ.
He said, "First time I saw this at the cinema, I was thoroughly blown away while simultaneously laughing my ass off at its ultra blackest of black comic tone." He said, "I was not expecting the introduction of Rafe the Legend Fiennes at all, but his cameo is one of the most hilarious and perfect that I've ever seen. My question is, are there any better or more enjoyable cameos that you could name? P.S. Keep up the great work, you massive legends. You brighten up a lot of soul-crushing commutes."
Oh, wow.
Oh, nice.
Our
lovely.
pleasure.
Yeah.
Yes,
Our
it really
pleasure.
is.
Hopefully it's not a commute to Bruges.
Yes.
No. Matt, cameos, what do you like?
A cameo for me is someone who's an absolute surprise and shows up for maybe just one scene. So I really love Samuel L. Jackson at the end of Out of Sight. That's a brilliant one.
Great.
Nice. Okay.
Yes.
Dan Aykroyd always puts a smile on my face in Temple of Doom, the guy showing Indy and Willie onto the plane to make
Nice.
this escape.
Yeah.
Which
I thought you were going to say Casper there.
well, don't jump into me number 3 here.
Still great.
Still great. And also Harrison Ford in E.T. He's the voice of the science teacher. I like that one
Yes.
as well. That one's good.
Yeah.
Scorsese does great ones. He's really chilling in Taxi Driver. That's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
one
Agreed.
scene. I really liked his cameo in Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yes.
Bill Murray, Zombieland. That's a really funny one. And
classic.
another one that really made me laugh was Channing Tatum in This Is the End.
Right,
seen
yeah.
that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a
Turns
Great.
up on the
Yeah.
gimp
Okay.
chain. Yeah. That-
Yeah.
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 That's very strange.
It is.
Yeah.
It's very
But
strange
very,
film.
very funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of take your point, Matt, that it's one scene and it's from somebody you wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of against type, isn't it?
It is, yeah. But I suppose the obvious one's Alec Baldwin and Glengarry Glen Ross.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's great, yeah.
The leads are shit. You're shit.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I'm a big fan of one we talked about a few months back on our double feature show, Gene Hackman in Young Frankenstein.
Oh,
yeah, great.
yeah.
Cigars.
Wonderful.
Great, yeah.
What is he doing in that film? Billy Crystal in This Is Spinal Tap. Mime is Money.
Yep,
Always a joy.
And Princess Bride.
And Princess Bride,
Yep.
yeah, very much.
Yep.
And I've got to throw in The Boss, Springsteen in High Fidelity.
Nice.
Love Goodbye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. What about you, Westy?
I'm just trying to figure out what's not already been said. Tom Cruise in Tropic Thunder.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There you
If
go.
you're talking about someone against type, he's an absolute
Very much.
fucking marvel in that.
He is
That's really
brilliant.
brilliant. And I love Tarantino in Desperado.
I thought you were going to say Django Unchained.
No, because that's his own film, so he's allowed to be in that. But every single Tarantino performance is a cameo, let's be honest.
Yeah, it is. He's funny in Desperado.
For me, Scorsese in Taxi Driver is probably the ultimate cameo in its way of like, who is this guy and how good is he in that?
And he's the
he's
director.
So
incredible.
brilliant.
Yeah. So, Westy, you're going to wrap us up on this scene. You're talking about Ken's fall.
Oh,
Yeah.
devastating.
I wanted to talk about this scene because this is the only scene that really puts us off watching the film. Because
Really?
I always want to see the film, but it's so sad and it's so well done and it's so real
Yeah.
that I kind of always imagined this scene. I have to deal with it mentally and then put the film on.
Right.
Because once you've seen it,
It
you're
is
kind of
very
like,
sad.
right, you've got to prepare yourself for this moment. And if I'm ready for that moment, then I can watch everything that's come before it and ready for that. I mean, I'm not a massive fan of local music, of this and that and whatever else, but I think the Dubliners on Raglan Road in this sequence is so beautifully played out.
I think it's incredible. Spine tingling.
With McDonagh, it could be something that was really upbeat, just to counteract the visual.
Yeah.
And you listen to almost the whole song,
Yeah.
and it's just all the way through. And the way that this reflects to what I was talking about with the Happy in Your Work scene, if he had to pay that money and got rid of his coins, he wouldn't be able to scatter them, and he wouldn't be able to clear people, and he wouldn't be able to jump, and this would never have happened.
Yeah.
So again, one of the perfect mirrors in writing, in hitting it home. But to see such a beloved character fall, do what he needs to do, realize that that's his purpose, and explode on the ground and see bits of him lying
Oh,
around.
my God.
Where's my gun? His gun's not there. And go straight into an action sequence straight after it. It's a beautifully realised piece of cinema that you can watch just by itself without knowing before or after what happens or even who this person is.
Yeah.
It's just a beautifully realised, just an experience, really. And I've got to prepare myself. I think I'm going to die now.
Yeah. Oh, God.
And that
think,
line,
yeah.
I mean, that could have been on a million films that I've seen, but it's never really hit home like it did on this one.
Yeah.
And it's Farrell's performance. He's absolutely gutted.
Oh, he's heartbroken. Because Ken was potentially his salvation.
Yeah.
He was, absolutely. And Ken's done this to save him. And there's just them close-ups of just Harry's here. He's absolutely flayed apart.
Yeah.
And all he wants to do is tell him he's Harry's here, get out of there. He still wants to save him.
The life that drains out of his face.
Yeah.
It
in
just
that
goes.
close-up. Ooh.
Yeah. There's two things that stand out for me here. The first is it tells you so much about Ken that he throws the coins over to get people out the way.
Yeah.
He doesn't have
Yeah,
to do
he
that.
doesn't want to hurt anybody.
He doesn't.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't.
Doesn't have to do that as well. And the other thing is that we can tell by what he's gone to see in Bruges prior to this that he's probably Catholic, so he's probably quite religious. And in Catholicism, if you kill yourself, that's a mortal sin.
Yeah.
So he will know that. So he will know in Catholicism, this is going to send him to hell. So it's like, is he doing that because he thinks that's why I deserve to go because I've killed people? So that's fine.
Yeah.
Or is he
Good point.
doing, hopefully, the fact that I'm doing this to save Ray, that will be my penance, that will get me out of it and, send me to maybe just purgatory, but not to hell. I think it's a really interesting thing for this character to do.
Or at least it's worth to save
to
Ray.
save Ray, yeah.
Yeah. And I think the other thing I get from it as well is that this isn't the full amount of money you need to get there. He's not paying his full penance.
No,
He's 10 cents short.
Yeah,
and
great.
what he has to do
Yeah,
is save Ray to get his 10 cents back.
Yeah.
So he's spilling what he has and paying the rest with his life.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. So heartbreaking to see Ken go the way he does, but he's at complete peace with himself, rounding off an incredible performance from Gleeson.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
In the final sequence, Harry clocks Ray, who makes a run for it, and we're picking up the scene in the hotel.
I love this scene, this confrontation in the hotel for a lot of reasons, but part of it for me is how important Marie has become in the film, because she is the symbol of hope and I think forgiveness in particular. As we've said throughout the film, Ray kind of latches onto her because the fact he killed a kid, so he's going to do everything for this unborn kid, is his kind of penance for what he's done. And it reminds me of Fargo, like when we talked about that episode, we talked about Marge being pregnant in that. I think it was Westy made the point that at no point you ever feel they've only written it as a pregnant character to put her in peril, to add to the
make
peril.
it as part of the narrative.
She's not vulnerable at all.
Not vulnerable at all, because I think that would be a really cheap ploy and like quite nasty to do that. And it's the same here. It's just there just as this alternate good future if things had gone down a different path for Ray. You know, that could have been his future, someone like Marie.
She's wonderful as well.
Oh, she's fantastic.
She's wonderful.
She's great.
Every
Thecla
single
Rubin,
scene.
I think she's called. I really love this performance. I think she's
she
brilliant.
just nails it.
Yeah.
Absolutely nails it.
Because she just completely cuts through the bullshit of these two guys. Like Ray's at the top of the stairs with his gun, Harry's at the bottom with his. And the way she just plonks herself in the middle of the stairs, like with such defiance. And for a very sweary film, she gets one of the best ones where she goes, "This is my hotel, so you can fuck off."
Yeah, it's great.
Emphasizes. It's brilliant. What she does, I think she brings in focus all these themes of honor and weird messed up principles, because Harry at one point says to her, "Well, I'm not going to shoot you because I'm a nice person." And I don't believe for a second he would shoot her. But
there's no way he would.
Nah, no way.
No way he would.
And he would never hold a hostage with the kid there or any of that.
No,
not
he
at
wouldn't.
all.
Having said that, that doesn't make him nice. That just makes him normal. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think the base level of humanity should be, I wouldn't hurt a pregnant woman.
Yeah.
I don't think you need plaudits for that. So it really brings that in focus, and you get that really like farcical level to this again of these guys are just dicks, like underneath it all. Like when Harry wants clarification of where the canal is, and he's like, "Well, you go right, it's a big fucking canal." And it's Harry's response. He goes, "All right, Jesus, I've only just got here, haven't I?" He's so touchy about it. But you're trying to kill him, so I think he's entitled to be a bit annoyed at you. So I love the scene. It just sums up a lot of the themes, but it's really funny at the same time, which, I mean, that's just in Bruges in a nutshell, really, isn't it?
It is, yes.
With that whole sequence, it's just the way that it plays out between them. They've got the shootout rules and they're laying it down. But it's principle. Again, the whole film's about principle.
It is,
And what is principle and what do you stand by and what's the point of being alive and what are you doing to make a difference? I think that's what this whole film is trying to say.
Yeah, Harry literally dies by his principles.
Absolutely. Bizarrely enough, this film like really reassures me about being a better person because I know what not to do. And it's really strangely done in that way by McDonagh. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I don't want to come back and find you hiding in a fucking cupboard. Like,
That's brilliant.
So funny. I don't run out there and come back and find your fucking cupboard. Because you know that he might do that, and that's what's funny to the audience. Because, he actually might do that, but now he's got to stick to his principles.
Now he's oh shit, I can't do that then.
Yeah, and I've got to swim across the canal, and I'm going to get away. Harry knows that he's not going to, and he jumps out, and it's kind of like the worst opening to any Bond film ever. He opens the door and then there's a boat coming along, jumps, lands it. It's kind of Ray's penance as well. He sits up and he should hide, but he doesn't feel he should hide. He feels he should die. And he just sits up straight and goes, no, it's too far away. If that hits me, then that's what's meant to happen.
Yeah.
But you actually feel that this character needs to do this. He needs that feeling of just feeling like it's not in my hands anymore. And it's just Harry's glee on his face when he hits him. Still got it.
Still got it. Yeah.
I can still do it. Yeah, that was miles away. That's good. I'll catch up with that.
Great.
That whole sequence where it should be this whole big action shootout, and it isn't. It's really emotional. It's really down to earth. It really makes sense. And it really just makes you stop and think and grounds you. I think it's just an incredible way to end the film.
Yeah, and for the scene, Colin Farrell's stunt double was a guy called James Embry, and he said that in this scene there originally wasn't going to be a boat for Ray to jump onto. He was just going to plummet into the water. But after seeing how shallow that water actually is, which is surprising because you think it would be deep, McDonagh introduced the idea of the passing boat instead, and he said actually at the time there were big crowds all around the place that gathered to watch this scene unfold.
They're probably all exclaiming, "They're filming Irish fellas," and go running towards it. Yeah, Farrell did the interior shots and cut outside, which is where Embry makes his play. Well, I'm going to round things off by talking about the notion of Bruges as purgatory being fully realised in these final moments. Much like the imagery in the Bosch painting, this movie set that Ray stumbles upon is his judgment. The costumes are the same or very similar to the painting. You've got Jimmy dressed as the schoolboy. That's Ray's reckoning.
Yeah.
It's uniquely complex, this film. In this moment, Harry shoots himself, as foretold by himself earlier if he killed a child. He doesn't realise that Jimmy is a little person. And what's beautiful is that Ray, even after being pumped full of lead by Harry, still tries to dissuade him from killing himself.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
The beauty of human compassion in the face of ultimate adversity. And in the end, Bruges is not only Ken and Ray's last judgment, it's Harry's last judgment as well.
Yeah.
Whoever thinks this is a beautiful city wants to have a word with themselves. It's a trained killer. Got to stick to your principles.
Yeah.
So McDonagh said, I'm interested in the strange, skewed attitudes of violent men. You don't cause the death of an innocent. You can't overcome it if you do. That was Harry's code. The film's characters are immoral, and that's a line you don't cross.
Yeah, they've got a code of ethics, haven't they?
Everything's
do.
a principle.
Yeah.
Everything's a code. Everything's a principle, yeah.
And finally, what I think is quite beautiful is the final voiceover from Ray. The dialogue right at the end is, I really hoped I wouldn't die. I really hoped I wouldn't die.
Yeah.
Ray is capable of change, and Ken hasn't died in vain. It's a very subtle arc for Ray, but it's a seismic revelation which is just whispered. Very much in keeping with the way McDonagh has balanced everything throughout the film.
Yeah.
It's so complex. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's wonderful.
So extreme bloodshed in the chaotic final reel of In Bruges, combined with heartbreak and beauty. All the hallmarks of a modern comedy classic.
Absolutely.
Reception and awards.
In Bruges premiered at the Sundance Film Festival and sneaked out on limited release a month later in the US. Despite a star in the lead, it returned a very conservative $34.5 million from a $15 million budget. In contrast to its lukewarm box office receipts, it was overwhelmingly praised by critics. Rolling Stone said, In Bruges is about wounds inflicted on the human heart. The actors are spectacular, and McDonagh's gift for language makes this film uniquely tasty.
No, nice.
Yes.
A particularly positive review from the Minneapolis Star-Tribune exclaimed, if you could hoist a film on your shoulders and parade it through the theatre for adulation and hoorays, In Bruges would be the one.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah.
It's nice, isn't it?
That's what you want to hear. Like, if you're McDonagh and you've used the language you've used in this film, to hear people say that must be amazing.
And the big man, Roger Ebert, what did he give it out of 4, fellas?
3.
I'll go 4. I reckon he loved it.
Oh, Matt on the money.
Oh.
4 out of 4. He said this film debut by Martin McDonagh is an endlessly surprising, very dark human comedy with a plot that cannot be foreseen but only relished.
Yes, nailed it.
Nailed it for once.
Yeah, for once. Well done, watch more like that, please.
And now, 15 years later, In Bruges has 85% on Rotten Tomatoes and an IMDb score of 7.9 out of 10. Pretty good going.
Not surprised at all.
Not at all. And with that kind of positive language being bandied about, it's unsurprising that it got recognised at awards season. It was nominated in 4 categories at the BAFTAs, with McDonagh picking up the Best Screenplay Award.
Brilliant.
Nice.
3 noms at the Golden Globes, with Colin Farrell picking up Best Actor.
Yep.
Great. Yep.
And it was nominated at the Oscars for Best Screenplay. Alas, it didn't win. It lost to Milk. Unsurprising.
Yeah, okay.
Considering the Academy. Come on, Matt.
Yeah, the language is going to put a fair few of the older photos off, I would have thought.
Further awards glory would follow McDonagh's later films. The critical responses remained the same, and the growing cult status of In Bruges has brought an ardent fan base to McDonagh's work.
Yep.
Pretty good going for your feature debut.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All the right movies ranking.
And now for our last judgment, the much-loved ATRM ranking. Matt, would you like to summarise and rate In Bruges out of 10, please?
Yes, I'd love to, because the benefit of this film being a very snappy 100 minutes or so, like, I really feel we've covered everything. We've not missed anything out.
No.
So in a lot of ways, I'm just going to repeat myself. I think the fact that this is a debut is extraordinary. Those 3 main performances are pitch perfect. And what really stands out is I think people think of In Bruges and they think of the big laughs and they think of the swearing and they think of the language, which is totally understandable. But that's just the surface stuff. And what keeps bringing me back is how clever it is underneath all of that.
Yes.
There's this real melancholy. There's this real tragic undercurrent to everything. And it's a really interesting exploration of morality and ethics and what does it mean to have a code that you profess to live by. And can you live by it in the most extreme of circumstances, which is what this film is for these characters.
Great.
And the last thing I want to say is that whenever we do an episode, I'm always slightly wary of how many times I'll watch the film beforehand, because if I watch it too many times, I'll get a little bit bored of it. And I think, I don't want to talk about it now. I've watched it too many times. I've not thought about anything else. But this, I've watched it 4 times in the last couple of weeks, and I'd happily watch it again tonight. You know, I don't think I'll ever tire of this. It is a wonderful alternative Christmas watch. It's one that has catapulted its way right up into my list of personal favourites. I simply can't give it anything other than the full whack, a big old 10.
Woo, a Christmas 10.
Christmas
Very nice, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Westy? You're a big Christmas guy.
Massive fan of Christmas. I love all that shit. It's one of them films I'll always come back to. One of them films I'll always recommend. One of them films that constantly surprises us is how well written it was, how well directed it is, how well acted it is, how much it's given everyone in the cast their room to shine. Farrell wouldn't be where he is now if it wasn't for this.
Agreed.
And McDonagh's career has just gone from shining light to shining light. Got no airs and graces about what I'm going to say, and it's a 10.
Oh, fantastic. Perfect scores so far. For me, this is an almost perfect film. I'm on board with the comedy. The nuanced characters, the dialogue and acting are first rate, naturally. I'm so pleased that there is someone working in the industry like Martin McDonagh, a real breath of fresh air, making idiosyncratic films full of heart and humour and nuance. We've talked at length about the film, how much we love it. It's technically perfect.
Yeah, but
I wasn't going to give it full marks because I measured it up against the other McDonagh films that I love. And for me, this, I think I prefer Banshees. Just that shade.
Man, he's his first go.
However, I haven't been able to get it out of my head since I've written this summary.
Nice.
And I've watched it again since. It's following me around. It's haunting me.
Good.
It's an amazing film. So it is 10 out of 10.
Yes. Unbelievable. Yes, absolutely
there
true.
is a fourth score.
There is.
Who cares?
That comes from our ever-growing followers on X, formerly Twitter. We often get a lively response, and In Bruges was no exception. Before I reveal the score, I've picked out some of the best comments.
Okay.
Well, the ones that I want to read out, not necessarily best.
Okay.
And here they are. From Robert, at Robert Miniucci. He said, great actors, great story, great piece. Ralph F. turns it up to 11.
Yes, he does.
Yep, true.
Brilliant.
Next.
Yeah. Next is Mark Pearson at The Chef Insider. He said 9.
Nah.
Would be higher, but for the anti-Spurs joke, that gets a point deducted.
Right.
I'm feeling your pain, Mark. I'm right there with you.
Don't know what that means. Move on.
Luke, if you actually deducted a mark from your score for that, I'd have been furious.
I wouldn't do another episode if I'm honest.
No.
It's going overboard, mate.
Deduct a point for Spurs.
And on the negative side of things, Wine Ass at Tutta Willis said, shit and overrated.
Doesn't matter. Leave it.
But rounding things off very smartly is RFA at _Royal FA_. And they said, I mean no disrespect, but In Bruges is a cult movie.
Yeah.
It's a cult now, and it's always been a cult. And the only thing that's going to change it is that it's going to become an even bigger cult.
Yeah.
Very smart.
Very nice.
Very
I love
good.
it.
Very,
I wish
very
we'd thought of
good.
that.
I know. Gutted. I'm so annoyed with myself.
So out of 10, what do you think In Bruges averaged out of 10 on X formerly?
I hope it would be full marks, but I'm feeling it's going to be like a 8 or 9, maybe an 8.5.
Okay,
I'll
Matt?
go 9.5. Maybe just missed out.
Ooh. Split the difference. It ended up with a solid 9 out of 10.
Okay.
Fair enough. Fish.
I think so. Doing well for itself. I wouldn't say it's got mass appeal, so I can understand the detractors.
Considering what it's about and how small
Yeah.
it is, yes, fair enough. A 9.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is fair enough. A lot of people are just, don't really appreciate really good films.
they don't understand.
They don't
They
understand.
don't get it, do they?
No.
It's not about you.
No.
Which means that overall, In Bruges scored 39 out of 40. Hell of a score.
Yeah.
That is
Hell
impressive,
of a
to be
score.
fair.
Messing with
That's
the big boys.
really impressive, yeah.
It's worth it, though.
Yeah.
It's totally worth it.
Of course
for
it
me.
is. You can see where In Bruges fares alongside all the other films that we've talked about on our classic podcast. Go to alltherightmovies.com/leaderboard. Join us next time on All the Right Movies. You'll be hearing the music and the voices of John, Westy, and Matt as they go behind enemy lines on Tarantino's Inglorious Bastards.
All right.
Looking forward to that one, fellas.
Yeah, I've got a glass of milk right here.
Yeah, don't forget the cream.
Wait for the cream.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
In Bruges, Inglorious.
Oh, lovely.
Very nice. There it
In
is.
Germany.
Inconsistent history.
Fantastic. For our Director's Chair Patreon supporters, we have a seasonal gift for you coming up. We'll be talking about not 2, but 3 films on our exclusive double feature podcast. Treble feature, if you will.
Yes.
Yeah.
The 3 of us here will be talking about The Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, and Misery.
One each.
A smorgasbord of genres whipped up by chef Rob Reiner.
Yep.
And if you like the sound of that, sign up to our Director's Chair tier and you can listen to that next week.
Yeah. You can.
Yeah, absolutly.
But you
That's
don't
gonna be-
have to.
You don't
You
fucking
don't
have
have
to.
to.
It's only
You don't
Jesus
fucking
Christ.
have. Of course you don't fucking have.
You don't have to.
Who ended? Lovely. Just like McDonagh.
I love that we're trying to encourage people to sign up, but then right at the end of every time we try to encourage them, we tell them you don't fucking have
No,
to.
you don't have to.
You don't have. Well, the truth of it is they don't have to.
Well, that's
You
it.
don't
I'm
have to.
lying.
Just
We
do it
dare
if you
you
want
to.
to. Do it if you want a better life.
Yeah.
As mentioned at the top, patrons get access to all those podcasts mentioned and more. Have a say in what films that we cover and the score they get. You're missing out on hundreds of hours of fun if you're not an ATRM patron, and that is patreon.com/allrightmovies.
Yes.
Yes, please check that out, guys. Hugely appreciate
Yes,
it.
please. And to reiterate, you can buy our podcast individually on our website, alltherightmovies.com, and you can subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts for the Classic Podcast Archive. We're everywhere.
Yes, you can.
Yes, we are.
It's much less than €5, Henry.
Not really, though. And please keep up to date with us on social media, on X/Twitter. We are at AT Right Movies. We post all day, every day, and have fascinating behind-the-scenes clips, photos, interviews. We often post extensive movie-making threads on there. And like our podcast, all of the thread info comes directly from the cast and crew or is corroborated by at least 3 sources.
Yes.
So keep checking back regularly for more. All legit, all fantastic.
Yes.
Yes.
We work really hard so you get the best info.
Yes.
So please check it
There you
out.
go. On Instagram and Threads, we are at @all_the_right_movies. On TikTok, search @all_the_right_movies. Join our Facebook group. Great guys, great movie discussions.
Yes.
Always. Every day.
We are on YouTube as well. Our videos are wonderful and include the 4-strong ATRM team. They go up all the time, so check them out if you haven't already. Also, it massively helps us out if you could subscribe to our channel and like our vids. youtube.com/alltherightmovies.
Yes.
Everything positive helps, guys. You
Yes.
know what?
Yes,
Really
it does. Very much.
Yeah.
Anything you can do is massively, massively appreciated by all of us.
It
Thank
really
you for
is.
listening. Thank you
Yeah.
for everything.
Thank
It's
you for the
really, really is
questions.
appreciated.
Thank you for the comments.
Yeah, some of the questions are even better than what we're coming up with.
I know,
So it's,
yeah.
it's a real,
Yeah,
it's a real
it's-
treat. It's a real treat for
Yeah.
people to get involved and hear everyone's side on things. It really is great. Thank you.
It is. And if you love what we do on the podcast, and why wouldn't you? Please give us 60 seconds of your time and give us a rating on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. What would you say, fellas? 5 stars should just about do it?
I would imagine
I
so.
think
mean,
so, yes.
Why have
Don't
that
bother if
effort?
it's less.
What's the effort worth if it's not?
Effortless. 5 stars.
They are.
Click. Done.
Beautiful.
And our website, the ATRM hub, is alltherightmovies.com. Lots to enjoy over the festive period. And that is a wrap on In Bruges. Thank you, everybody, for listening to us over 2023 and before,
Yes, indeed.
and coming up in 2024. We'll
Yeah.
have loads more coming for you.
Absolutely will. Yep.
Thank you so much, guys. Makes everything really, really worthwhile. And we
Yeah.
love doing this. We just
Yeah.
really love doing this. So thank you
We
for
do.
listening. Thank you for being here. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
We do. Thank you very much. And we're now off to hide out over the Christmas period.
Yeah.
Hopefully a place where it isn't all just fucking chocolates.
Nah, alcoves, nooks and crannies.
Yeah.
Compliments of the season. Thank you for listening. We'll be back in 2024.
Yes.
Thank
See
you,
next
guys.
year. Thanks, guys.
Have a good one.
Thanks, guys. Happy New Year.